This is a clouds weather alert. Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud coming on the air right now with some severe weather warnings across the area. Seeing a couple yellow boxes on the screen right now. One of those for parts of Clay County till 5:30. Watching some convection over there with some damage and wind potential. And then as we look over toward the west here, we have Leon County here. Even parts of Gadsden County under this as well. That one goes to 6:15. Out toward the east is till 5:30. So a lot going on. There's also been damage reported in Gainesville. There was not a warning on that storm. I was posting about it there in the 4 o'clock hour, but we had quite a bit of damage reported toward the Gainesville airport. So we have a lot to get into. Let's warn people first. We'll talk about Gainesville, what happened over there a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and zoom on in here. Toward this storm here, toward parts of Clay County. We have this severe thunderstorm warning. The worst of this is south of Penny Farms. Let's go ahead and look here. I know I see some hail potential up to an inch on my other source, but they're going with penny size, but 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible there as we're looking. Severe thunderstorm located there about 8 miles northeast of George's Lake, or 8 miles southwest of Green Cove Springs, moving north at about 10 miles an hour. You just saw an update on that warning, by the way, as we're looking at things over toward the east. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning. So at 5:15, the severe storm is located in the vicinity of Green Cove Springs, moving north at 10 miles an hour, and we have Penny Farms in there with some penny-sized hail, ironically possible, with a 60-mile wind gust potential. Could have some damage to roof, side, and trees there. As we're looking at the overall situation. So again, we have a situation that's pretty nasty right now in toward portions of our area. That's one warning. We need to get out toward the west now. That got issued just after 5. This one got issued even a little bit later than that here. As we look toward Tallahassee, we have that burst of wind potential. I know we have some of that Saharan dust that's allowing for some of these bursts of wind to happen maybe a little easier as storms fall apart, maybe a little bit quicker because of that, believe it or not. So we have a lot going on here. Severe thunderstorm warning southeastern Gadsden as well as Leon until 6:15. At 5:06, the severe thunderstorm is located 10 miles northwest of Crawfordville, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Tallahassee, Woodville, Tallahassee State College, Florida State University, as well as Midway, Florida A&M, Doak Campbell Stadium, Lake Bradford, getting over toward Leon Sinks, the Gaither Community Center, Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, Walker Ford Community Center, Miccosukee, as well as South City, 8 Mile Pond, Griffin Heights, Tallahassee Airport, Governor Square Mall, Midtown, Appalachia Ridge Estates. This happening during rush hour here. This damage and wind potential out toward Leon and Gadsden. Let me go ahead and especially Leon here. You can see how things have evolved. We have a couple different areas here of convection. The one they're warning for here right now is the one northwest of Crawfordville, but I would argue that both of them could be severe in nature. Let's look at velocity. We can see, we have quite a bit of this right near the Tallahassee Airport. And the movement on this, you see it's headed right for the radar, right for the airport here, right for Tallahassee. So please take precaution. It looks even more impressive on velocity here. You got to be taking precaution around Tallahassee right now as this is evolving rapidly. This burst of wind energy here, you can see how it came together as it's moving toward the airport there. And then as we get to the north, we have some different indicators still going on up here. He's evolving very rapidly. This is around Bradfordville, around the Bridle Path Acres, Oak Knoll Estates. Again, these warnings popping up very rapidly here. A rapidly evolving situation as we have severe thunderstorm warning activity toward the west and toward the east here. Let's go. And we got a new warning now, it looks like. So this just coming down from the Weather Service there in Jacksonville. I know after what happened toward Gainesville, I don't think they're going to take any chances because we didn't have a warning down there and there's been quite a bit of damage. So we need to go ahead. There was an advisory. I know, just not quite to that warning level, but we had a gust of 66 miles an hour there at Gainesville Airport, and there's been a lot of damage in that vicinity. So you can see, though, a new warning here as we get toward Green Cove Springs. Okay, so at 5:16, a severe thunderstorm is located near Green Cove Springs, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. Green Cove Springs, Fleming Island, Switzerland, Penny Farms. Okay, so we have 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and penny-sized hail potential. We need to take precautions here. This is moving eventually maybe toward the Jacksonville Metro, but it might fall apart before then. We have, again, some of that Saharan dust mixed in, and we have this energy today Our surface phase CAPE values here at over 5,000 joules per kilogram in parts of St. Johns County. Didn't have a formal risk for severe weather for most of us here today, but things just happen like this around here. We have a formal risk tomorrow and for Sunday for parts of our area, which, if we ever get past these warnings, we'll get to. We also have a strong storm here in Bradford County. Need to watch this carefully. This might go severe here west of Hampton, as we're looking here, west of Bradford Elementary School. So we just need to be very mindful here as we look at the situation. You see these 35 indicators right now, but winds could be getting even stronger in here as we look ahead at the situation. So again, I know I mentioned South Jordan in our description. We'll watch up there because we're going to have to just pay attention to see how things evolve with the algorithms, because this right here eventually will be a threat maybe into South Florida, this activity, maybe pretty quickly with a warning getting up there, or at least an advisory. But we have a lot going on here right now. We need to be, very careful because we'll real quick try to break down a little bit what happened in Gainesville there. I don't want to spend too long on it because we need to warn people about what's happening now. But at the Gainesville Airport area around 425, at least a half dozen reports of trees and wires downed, mainly in the northeast side of town with that 66-mile-an-hour wind gust there at the airport. And then you have the special weather statement here in place still for this accident getting to the north. But then there's your official gust at 428 to 66 miles an hour. And we'll back this up an hour. You saw we had the advisory here, and that's the same accent here. It's kind of weakened off and now strengthening as it gets here into Bradford County again. So you need to be careful. We could have some damage here happening as we get to near State Road 100 here in toward parts of Bradford County. We need to be alert here. This could end up going severe or producing some severe damage as we look, severe weather damage, damaging wind gusts, 60-mile-an-hour type of potential as we look right now around Graham there. But it's headed up toward, Sampson's already kind of getting into it, but toward State Road 100 right here. Again, this could be, a problematic situation as we get over here now. But let's get back toward the east. Let's get back toward the east here. Okay, so we have this wind coming into Greenco, but it's right there, right around State Road 16 there, and the First Coast Expressway have some strong wind. In fact, let's see what I can do about trying to get some cameras up there. There's some pretty new cameras in that area on the Florida 511. So just going to remind you guys real quick of the coverage area here. Going to go ahead and throw that on up for everybody as we're trying to give you the latest for the 38 counties here. Again, let's see if we can get some of this on the camera views. I think we just got another new warning. Let me see what this one is. Okay, this is in Putnam County. Okay, so we have another new warning now in toward Putnam County. Let me read that off while I'm trying to get the cameras. Okay, that's a different storm here than what we've been talking about. Northwestern Putnam at 5:20. A severe thunderstorm is located over Hollister or over Interlochen, moving southeast, a different direction. They're southeast at 10 miles an hour. Interlochen, Melrose Landing, Hollister, Manville. Again, so we now have 4 warnings here in our area. We're going to try to get the Florida 511 up. Things are happening very fast. We've had 4 warnings issued here in the last 20 minutes. 3 different storms. Again, we've already had quite a bit of damage there in Gainesville in the 4 o'clock hour, northeast Gainesville. So let me see what I can kind of pull on up here. We're going to try to pull some of these views on in. Bear with me. Let's see what we can kind of get up. Just give me just a moment here. It's all about trying to protect you, your friends, and your family. If I can't get it up too quick, I'll just jump away from this. Okay, I can't get it up right now, so let's just go ahead and warn people with the Doppler technology. Let's warn people with the Doppler. So we're going to go ahead and I'll get back in front of the key wall. So let me come back over here. Okay, so we have that new warning in the word part of Putnam. This is that area they're warning for around Interlochen. Okay, so I already kind of was reading it off, but let me just read it off here again. Okay, so severe thunderstorm over Hollister, over Interlochen there. I need to take precautions in that area. It's moving southeast. Again, an unusual movement, but yeah, I'm seeing that. Well, let's double check that. I mean, it kind of is meandering that way, but, that is just unusual because our skid's trying to take a northeast here. But we have this storm in Bradford County. We also have a storm in Columbia County here. And our radar wants to just kind of go out toward the Atlantic as we watch things. Again, things rapidly evolving here. You can see into parts of Bradford County. We need to be very mindful here. We need to be very mindful. You can see all this wind here showing up on the Doppler. I know 30 doesn't sound like a lot, but at this distance here, let me go back even further. Let's go 2 hours on this loop. We'll go 5-minute increments. I know we were getting ready for a 5:30 so, and then things just, really escalated. You could see a little more of a burst here on this down toward Gainesville where we had, all that damage, but kind of look here, and it looks like these greens got a little brighter in there. There might be kind of steady state now, I would say, compared to the last few minutes, but just after what happened in Gainesville, just don't want to take any chances here with this into toward Bradford County as we're looking here, as we're looking around Sampson and Hampton Beach and Graham. So be very mindful. Let's get back down to Putnam County. Again, severe thunderstorm warning here till 5:45. Not seeing a lot on the radar, but we're pretty far away from it. Just got to be really careful there as you're looking, as we're tracking things. State Road 20. Okay, so let's go ahead. I know there's a new advisory for Flagler just popped up. You might have not seen that, but I'll move it over real quick. That storm popping in. You have this storm here right around Penny Farms area and Green Cove Springs. You see some, apparent, strong winds here. 46, 50, kind of moving up into where that Green Cove Springs area. Get inside, get away from windows. This is happening during rush hour here. These are, hit and miss, but when they hit, they are dangerous. They are damaging. And folks, I'm sure in parts of Gainesville, not all of Gainesville, but parts of Gainesville can attest to here with the damage that has happened there. Let's go ahead and we'll get over to the currents. We'll go on over here toward the county power outage total and show you guys that there are, noteworthy outages over here. 3,500 customers in the dark. I was looking there. Gainesville Regional Utility had about 3,000 here in the dark when I was looking at it a few minutes before we came on. Bradford County, even a few folks in the dark, 200. Marion, 500 customers, 300 there in the ward Gilchrist. So, again, just continue to try that. We need to get back out to Tallahassee, though, and warn people over there. Let's warn people over toward Leon County here. That's right into the airport. Right into the airport there. Again, that burst of wind energy here. You can see 46 and 17, so we could have some issues there toward the Tallahassee airport, and this is headed right up into toward Tallahassee. Let's try to do a storm track on this. It's right at the radar, but let's try to get a storm track on this here. They're 95 degrees there at the airport at the last check, but it's going to drop quickly with this storm coming on in, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Moving northeast at 15 miles an hour, so let's go ahead and it's pretty much right over the airport now. And then we'll change some of the rank size to get some of the smaller areas on here. Okay, so we have areas that are on Ocklawahney, Doak Campbell Stadium, though at 5:39. So FSU campus, you have probably, let's say, even less than 10 minutes because you're already on those rumbles of thunder. Go ahead and take precaution now. But the worst of this could be in your area within about 10 minutes or so. Right there, as we're looking in toward that zone. So go ahead and take precautions there immediately. This is a rapidly evolving weather situation here. Let's go ahead and get back on over toward the Jacksonville radar. You can kind of see what's going on here as we look around Penny Farms and Green Cove Springs. You have this wind energy, Knowles Road there in Clay County, and then you have Brock Road and Turner Road. Again, this is some really strong wind coming on through here. I know it says 40, but remember we had, I'll go back an hour. Let's go back an hour. We'll pause this. Almost exactly an hour ago, they had that significant gust around Gainesville. Radar was only showing. Granted, you can kind of see that's a pretty, interesting signature to be that far from the radar, and that's why it probably didn't have a warning because this is so far. But you see 40 there, but ended up having 66 at the airport, which is a little bit further up. It's just sometimes when you're further away from the radar, you have trouble seeing things. So let's get back now, though. This is while we're, in such kind of a you know, a little bit of an enhanced tone right now because we have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings on the board here. Again, we already had a storm that caused some pretty significant damage in toward Gainesville, you know, last hour. So, you know, with that significant weather advisory in play. But let's go ahead and look here around Green Cove Springs, around Warfield Avenue. You know, this could end up being damaging. Could be that burst of wind energy that knocks power lines down. A few of them, a tree down. We have people driving during rush hour. You know, really just need to be trying to take precautions if you can here. Don't want to be driving on the roads right now in this type of situation. And then as we get down here toward Interlochen, this doesn't look as impressive, but remember what we saw in Gainesville, it wasn't overly impressive, and we've had quite a bit of damage. So, you know, from Interlochen to Hollister, right there around State Road 20. This is a pretty vigorous storm. And again, the Weather Service is tracking this moving in an opposite direction. They are, you know, this one's going northeast. They're saying this is moving southeast now. Let me double check that because, you know, it's kind of meandering around some. I know it's kind of different. Some of the indicators are showing one thing, some are showing another thing. Because that's showing northeast here. But, you know, they drew the box toward the southeast, so just be, you know, taking precautions in that area. Tallahassee, this is really firing up on the broad radar now into a main line here. Let's get here out to this. You can see we have two different zones, but let's go to Valdosta radar because it looks like it's kind of forming right across into a line here because the Tallahassee are obscuring things some. So really might already be kind of forming right across the FSU campus area now based on the radar a little bit further away. As we look here again, this is potential, you know, damaging situation here. Some of the strongest winds right near the airport in Tallahassee. As we kind of zoom on in here, and let me tilt this back a little bit. You know, you see some of these stronger winds around Bel Air. And then we'll get back to the Tallahassee radar just to see what we can kind of come up with here. Make sure it hadn't been, I think it's still working because I see a burst signature here. You know, so we'll zoom on in. Let's get the roads up over here. So around Capitol Circle Southwest, Spring Hill Road. Just need to be taking precautions here. 50, 41 there. I know this is right there. The radar, so it's going to be obscure, but we could have 60, 70 mile an hour winds around the Tallahassee airport. We already had damage in the Gainesville airport vicinity last hour. Let me check my observations here. Just checking some different modes. So I'll be really curious to hear what type of wind reading we get there at that airport. So again, just trying to keep you guys up to date. Normally I'd be at cloud weather 5:30 here, but we are in severe weather coverage because of this impactful weather. Let me go ahead. Just trying to effort some information here. Don't see the gust yet there, but I would suspect a pretty hefty gust there from Tallahassee Airport. As we look in toward Leon County again, we're monitoring things for you here. Zoom the radar out. We have quite a bit going on here. You know, no formal risk of severe weather for most of us today. You know, you have to get, as I kind of move the map around, it's kind of slowing down on us. They actually did trim it out of Levy and Marion here. Our map's really kind of wanting to go slow on us here. I guess just really pushing it hard right now in the system because of the active weather that we're dealing with. But let's go ahead and get back on in here toward parts of Putnam County. Severe thunderstorm warning here. Severe thunderstorm warning till 5:45 as we're looking down that way. Let me go ahead and read the information on off. You know, severe thunderstorm over Hollister, over Interlochen, 60 mile an hour wind gust, penny size, hail. The storm to the north, you know, able to take advantage of, you know, to the east over 5,000 joules per kilogram of surface-based Cape right near at about 4,000, but it's moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. Green Cove Springs, Fleming Island, Switzerland, just that overall vicinity as I move the map up to that storm here. I'll go ahead and zoom on in here as we look at the situation. You can see all this wind energy here right around Green Cove Springs. We have the bridge that we were talking about in recent severe coverage that goes across, goes across that St. Johns River. And this will be, in that vicinity at least here. It may be a little west based on what I'm seeing because it's more right in here, it looks like. But, some of this might be tracking just west of that, but it's close enough to just be really careful because, you can kind of see here the situation. It shows the green, the brighter green, a little west, but it could be some pixel displacement here from some of the strongest activity. Let me see if there are any questions, comments. I know we haven't really had a chance to do that much because I have just, really had to get into these storms. But let's see if we have anything on this Friday. Top Cat watching. Just appreciate you tuning on in here. Trust in me as we monitor things very carefully here in this rapidly evolving situation. Again, we've been on a little bit with the active weather, obviously, these hazardous conditions. Around Stark here we have some of this lightning showing up here around State Road 100. We have active conditions here with this warning in Putnam County. But let's get back out to Tallahassee. Let's get back out to Leon County here. We have a lot going on there right around Tallahassee. In fact, so I'm monitoring this very carefully here. Again, we're monitoring things 4 to 38 counties here, trying to give you guys the very latest, trying to keep you guys up to date here. I know we're watching things here very carefully over toward Leon County here right now, over toward Leon County. And I'm going to try to effort some information out of there. I'll put the radar back up while I do so. Again, severe thunderstorm warning in play. We got a severe thunderstorm warning in play. We need to be taking precautions there. I'll zoom on out. Let me go ahead and see what I can come up with here. Okay, already getting reports of some damage now around Killarn Estates. A tree fell and damaged a residence fence there on Heath Drive. Also getting damage out of Putnam County now. A large tree limb blocking part of County Road 315 north of Interlochen. So these storms really causing that damage here, those bursts of wind energy. So we got to be taking this situation seriously. Got to be taking this very seriously here on this Friday. Just trying to update everybody the best they can here meteorologically. Trying to keep everybody safe. I'm just trying to keep everybody informed. Just trying to update you guys here. So important. Looking through some more information here behind the scenes. Okay, so again, severe thunderstorm warning in effect. We're going to go ahead and throw up our coverage map here again, just to remind everybody what's going on here. We have the warning for parts of Leon. We have, Gaston got trimmed out there. We also have a warning there for parts of Putnam. We have Clay and a warning here as well. So again, just trying to watch things here very carefully. Being very mindful of the situation. So again, just trying to keep everybody informed here. Look at all this wind showing up right here around Tram Road. 53 miles an hour, 54 miles an hour. Again, this is causing some impacts there in toward parts of Leon County. So again, just need to be very mindful here with what's going on in toward that area. Let's get back toward east into that storm here in Bradford County. Seems to be falling apart some again. It's falling apart once and then it re-strengthened. But you see our warnings, Clay. Putnam looks like it's weakening. We have another storm north of Hastings. We have to watch the storm out here, south of Lake City. We have to watch here around the Ellisville community. Just got to be very mindful of that. Let's get back over toward the power outage information now. We're going to go ahead and go back over toward the power outage information. 500 out in Marion, 3,500 out in Alachua, 300 out in Bradford, 500 out in Columbia, 900 out in Gilchrist, 100 out in Leon so far, 600 out in Decatur. So that's kind of the storyline right now here with our power outage situation and things, still ongoing here with the threat. Again, we've gotten some different damage reports in here in the last few minutes. So let's get back into the radar. I know some of them aren't going to show up in this system yet, but we got reports of damage in Putnam County. Got a report of damage in Leon County. Again, the big damage so far has been in Alachua County, though. A situation down in there where we had at least a half dozen trees there and wires down in Gainesville, mainly in the northeast side. Around 4:25 p.m., even a 66-mile-an-hour wind gust. And I know Weather Service in Jacksonville, all the Weather Service offices do really great work. They try really hard, but sometimes things can just get a little bit hard to see on the Doppler scans here enough to issue a warning. And that seems to have been the case here as we had that damage. I know I did post something about it. I saw a little uptick in the signatures there, as we're watching things at the significant weather advisory. But just don't really like to go on unless there's a warning here, especially this time of year when we just have so many warnings anyway as we look down into that area. But, the 66-mile-an-hour wind gust there right before 4:30 p.m. into Alachua County. Quite a few power outages down there, over 3,000 in the dark. But as we get back over here into parts of Clay County, keep in mind, not everybody's even getting storms. I mean, look outside, it is cloudy now, but it was sunny earlier on. Sunny earlier on, but 44-mile-an-hour winds there showing up on velocity in Clay County. As again, just continuing to track things here. Let's get back over toward Leon County, though. This is where we have so many people being impacted around Blairstone Road and Paul Russell Road. And now you see the new scan. Dickinson Drive, Twain Drive, Whitman Way, Lantana Lane. Again, some really strong winds coming on through around areas of Leon County, southeast Tallahassee. 50+ mile-an-hour winds soaring on up right now. Wind damage potential is there. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here on things with the overall scenario. This warning goes until 6:15 for parts of Leon County here. Tallahassee, Woodville, Tallahassee State College, Florida State University, Florida A&M, Doak Campbell Stadium, Lake Bradford, just some of the areas involved in this warning here. You've already had some damage up toward the Killarney Estates area. A tree fell and damaged a residence fence there on Heath Drive. So, this is some impactful weather for sure. I know, make sure you have that Cloud Weather app downloaded there. Like, you can look on the Google Play Store there. It's Cloud_S there, weather. And then in the Apple App Store, KC Cloud Weather there. You can get that. You can get lightning alerts, get some advance notice even before I can get on the air. You get some special weather statement information, just really helpful stuff. I know we have a heat advisory too that, got maybe information about that in if you have it downloaded. But, the big story is stuff about these storms. I know we're at 85 now here east of Stark. We got a lot warmer earlier on. Let's go ahead and go to temperatures here. Throw that map on up. You can see how cool Gainesville is now. 75 after, again, 66. Yes, that's right. You're hearing that right. 66 mile-an-hour wind gust reported there in the last hour toward Alachua County. It's a localized situation with the damage, but there's been quite a bit of it with the report was, again, to reiterate, at least a half a dozen there. And I need to back my system up to be able to see it because it's been past an hour now. But looking off camera here, but at least a half a dozen reports of trees and wires down in Gainesville, mainly in the northeast side, around that 4:25 p.m. benchmark and 66-mile-an-hour wind gust at nearby Gainesville Airport. Something else we didn't mention out of this, there was hail reported there too in that area. That was around 4:25 as well, around Noonan's Lake, a feet, a half-inch size hail there. That was more southeast Gainesville though. So very impactful storm down there in Alachua County. But again, let's get over to the outages. This is a different way to visualize it here. I mean, Bradford set up, we have a lot lower population than Alachua, so that percentage, that's actually a lower number than Alachua, but, Gilchrist's pretty high in terms of percentage, but it's not a huge number, but quite a few outages scattered about here in our area this afternoon, this evening, as we look at the overall situation. So let's get back into Leon County. There's that report there of the Killarney Estates incident where we had a tree fall and damage a residence fence there on Heath Drive. As we go ahead and zoom back on in here, you can kind of see all this wind here around April Road. Just that damaging potential here. You can see that track of it going across South Tallahassee, especially, and down to East Tallahassee. The worst of this. It's right on the radar, where that's obscuring it. So it's hard to see stuff. Let's check the wind there at the Tallahassee Airport. They got a gust of 30 knots. So that gets us up to, and I'll just look at it to double check things here. Okay, so that's 35 miles an hour. Okay, we got another damage report now. Just coming in. I'm looking on a different source here. Sometimes it's a little quicker. We have FHP reporting a tree down in the roadway, a Bloxham cutoff X there to Helen Guard Station Road, about 514 there in Ward Leon County. So this stuff happening quick. We just got an update on the warning now. So at about 5:45, severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from 12 miles northwest of Monticello near Florida A&M, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Tallahassee, Woodville, as well as Florida State University, Florida A&M, getting over toward Doak Campbell Stadium, Miccosukee Road Greenway, Gaither Community Center, Lake Munson, Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, Walker Ford Community Center, Miccosukee there, South City, 8 Mile Pond, Killarney Estates. You're still potentially having some impacts. Even you already had that damage there. I was reporting just a little while ago. Lake Ella, Governor Square Mall, Midtown here. Again, just watching things closely. Things have really, really evolved here this last hour. But even, last hour we had some damage, as I've been alluding to. But you can kind of see how we had these yellow boxes pop up. And almost instantly, we had some damage reports there with these yellow boxes. Actually, I think that one in Putnam, that damage might have happened before we actually had the warning down there. It's just how it is sometimes. This is, not how it is in much of the country, but just because of the way these bursts of wind happen, sometimes by the time the radar can see it, it's already producing damage, and then it's a very hard thing to warn for here with the overall meteorological process. Again, you can see, yeah, that was before we had the warning there, the damage in toward Putnam County, and then let's get back out toward the west here. That warning initially got put out there toward Tallahassee there at about 5:06. This was just after some of this damage, I think. That was 5. Let's see if we can click on this. I'll turn it back. I need to switch radars again. Now we'll try to, it's not going to let me click on it. Let me try that again. Okay, so tree fell and damaged a residence fence here at 5:15, and at 5:14, a tree in the roadway at the Bloxham cutoff. So again, I'm just trying to be very mindful of things. Let's get back on over toward the east here. You can see what we're dealing with around Penny Farms and Green Cove Springs. Moving up toward the Orange Park area right now. Some 47 mile an hour wind gust potential at least, but could be even stronger. Also have some boundary activity coming into Jacksonville now. You see this little outflow, and Weather Service in Jacksonville now warning for that. Let's see what they're saying. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on this here. They're tracking gusty showers over NAS Jackson and Orange Park. That's what they're calling this action here. So that's out ahead. There's some gust of wind to about, let me see here, 40 miles an hour. So again, just being very mindful here. I'm going to go ahead and check some more information. See what we have here. See if there's any questions, comments from any of the viewers at home. Just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Friday. Again, there's been a lot going on here. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in. Let me see here what we're dealing with. Gonna check some different feeds here. Just trying to stay on top of things the best we can. Want to make sure we're updating you guys here. Okay, so yeah, this is growing here north of Hastings around Decoy. You can see here around Riverdale, Clay Landing, some lightning. We're seeing that, I know I'm zoomed out, so it made it go up anyway, but definitely seeing some growth there in terms of that lightning over the last 15 minutes. That's what's above my head here. Let's go ahead and keep on looking at things to try to keep you guys up to date. Try to keep you guys up to date here meteorologically. Got some lightning in Columbia County. I heard a rumble here around Stark. I'm not sure where that was. It might have been up in Baker, but we'll see if something pops up closer to home here in a moment. It's probably a weekend here in Bradford, but let's get back out toward the west here. You can see out toward Leon County here, some lightning. This is right here around Appalachia Parkway. Look at that there. That looks like, that could be a false echo out to the east, but got some of that wind gust potential. See some stronger acts and getting into South Georgia now, south of Thomasville. To try to keep you guys up to date here on things the best we can. Again, appreciate everybody tuning on in and trusting me. Just going through everything here with the latest data points. Perkins there, Connor Boulevard, Mahan Drive, Dansby Place. Just checking here, could have some hail in there mixed in a little bit. In the overall vicinity. Do have an advisory now in South Georgia now for that area in Thomas County. So again, continuing to give you guys the very latest here on the situation as it evolves. Again, watching things for North Florida. That's where the main, focus has been, but also starting to see a little bit north, South Georgia. Again, just trying to update everybody here with the latest details. Okay, we got a new warning now. It looks like, let me see what I can kind of come up with here. Yeah. So let's come over to our other source real quick. Gonna get that set up. Okay, so we're gonna come back on camera with this now. Severe thunderstorm warning till 6:15 at 5:49. A severe thunderstorm was located near Federal Point at 7 miles northwest of Hastings, moving north at 5 miles an hour. Hastings, as well as Bostwick, Federal Point, Spuds. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building, and boaters along the St. Johns River south of Piccolata and near Hastings will need to seek immediate shelter. So, again, just got to be taking precaution there. Again, trying to keep everybody safe and informed. This is that new warning. This is moving north at 5, and we got another new warning now. This one, I know they're not wanting to take any chances here after what happened further, down to the south around Gainesville in the last hour with all that damage. But at 5:52, a severe thunderstorm was located near Fruit Cove, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Fruit Cove, Durbin, Nocatee, and Bayard there. Bayard, you have that impact. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Again, this is 5th thunderstorm warning, northwestern St. John's and south central Duval until 6:15. Okay, so we have 3 warnings over here. We have the warning out toward Tallahassee, which we'll get back to in a moment. Okay, so at 5:52, severe thunderstorm near Fruit Cove. Let's zoom in here. Let's get down to street level. Some burst of wind energy possible around Blacks Ford. Some heavy downpours in there. You have here northwest of Green Cove, around Fellowship Park to Russell. We have some wind energy potential. You can see here moving up toward the Neilhurst community. As we look north of Hastings, see some of this lightning here on the view. Just whenever thunder roars, go indoors. Just trying to give everybody the latest here. Again, just a slew of warnings being issued here. Quite a bit of damage occurring. Let's get back to the west. Okay, so Leon County. You can see all this wind here. 37, 31. There's some really nasty stuff out toward the Big Bend region because this could be higher. It could be higher than that. I mean, you see the numbers, you say that don't sound like a lot, but it's just, you know, an indicator where some of the strongest winds are. And a burst of wind in those areas could be up to 60 miles an hour. So you need to be very cautious here in this type of situation as we track things meteorologically. So just continuing to give you the latest. We also have some stuff over there in southeast Alabama. That'd probably go north of our area, but let me look at it. Yeah, that would go north of the area. But again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here on the overall scenario. Okay, let's go to power numbers again. You know, just quite a few between the different counties here with these storms coming on through. Let's get back on over here to the other mode. We got 3 warnings over here toward the east. Again, Pine Bluff, this is moving up there toward the Clarksville area, Durbin there, Bayard, Greenland. You have this activity down in here. North the Hastings, around Riverdale to Coy. Got a gust there, 32 knots, Jackson, one of our states, and we talked about that little boundary. By the way, this is, you know, not anywhere near our area, but it pops up, you know, in my system here. There's a considerable severe thunderstorm warning here in Florida now, south of Tampa. They get a 70-mile-an-hour winds down there, so we got a lot going on, not just in our area, but downstate as well. It's a more significant area down there. You know, that's something the local meteorologists down there, I'm sure, are on top of, but we have to focus on our area. We have our hands full right now here with everything that's going on. Let me go ahead and look here. See around Lakeside, Neilhurst. Severe thunderstorm warning. These winds here could be, you know, could be getting up to 60 with some of these bursts moving off toward the north and east. You see parts of Mandarin there, maybe going to get impacted there. You have Loretto there. Again, I just got to be taking precautions. Let's go ahead and zoom back to the west here. Again, looking at all this electrical energy in the Doppler in toward parts of Leon County, and we already had these damage reports have been alluding to out there. Tree fell and damaged a residence fence there on Heath Drive. We also had a situation, FHP reporting a tree down in the roadway at Bloxham Cutoff. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here, just trying to keep everybody safe and informed as we be, you know, very mindful here of what's going on here meteorologically. Let's throw up our lightning safety here. Let's go ahead and throw up the lightning safety. Again, when thunder roars, go indoors here. Lightning can strike miles away from a parent storm. So just got to be very mindful here of the situation. Again, when thunder roars, go indoors here. It's very important. I mean, you know, sometimes you know, get the thunder around. It may take a little bit for storm to be officially severe, but that's your warning. Just to go ahead and take precaution, get an interior room away from windows. I mean, you know, before we really had all this technology decades ago, that's what you would do to kind of know about an approaching storm. It doesn't always work at, you know, certain times of year in severe weather season. You can get like a tornado with not much lightning, but this time of year in general, you're going to have that warning with the lightning coming on in. You just got to go ahead and take precaution here as we update you guys the best we can. Again, looking through everything here, seeing our warnings, you know, coming on through in the system. Again, I'm just going to come back over to the Doppler right now. Let me see if there are any more questions, comments from any of the viewers at home. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in here. Trust in me. On this Friday, it's supposed to be cloud weather at 5:30. It turned in severe weather coverage here on this 10th day of July, 2026, as we've had, a slew of warnings here get issued this hour. We're about to turn into the 6 o'clock hour. We're going to be with you every step of the way until these warnings go away. It's all about trying to protect you, your friends, and your family. So, again, just trying to keep everybody up to date. Let me see. Severe thunderstorm warning till 6:15. Let's try to do a storm track on some of this. As it tries to get up into toward Duval a little bit more, northeast at 15. So that's the movement right now. Jacksonville Beach by 6:57, but let's try to get in some smaller communities here and toward the metro and see what, times this could move in there. So you have, and I'll move this over a little bit more here so you can see this a little bit better. You have Loretto there at 6:04, Bayard there at 6:06. You have Stockade at 6:23, and then Deerwood Club at 6:26. Iowa Palms there 6:47, San Pablo 6:49, Ponte Vedra Beach there 6:51. So again, just continuing to watch. I'm looking at my thermometer like here east of Stark. We're down to 85. That's the reading. We were in the mid-upper 90s earlier on. All that heat of the day, the humidity involved. We have that dust too, which can cause these, storms to kind of fall apart quicker. And that's a situation here where that can allow for maybe a burst of wind energy really quick down to the surface. And that can be problematic in terms of causing damage. That's, some of these, they don't look as impressive on radar, but yeah, we're getting the damage to happen there with these bursts of wind energy. So again, I know there's no formal risk of severe weather today. We were showing you they had trimmed out, our area from that. As we look, I'll zoom on out here and say you that. I mean, it's down to the south. We're getting some stuff into the north. They're getting stuff, but in our area, we're getting issues too. It's just the way things go. I know tomorrow, let's get into tomorrow here. We do have a formal risk. I had a graphic all, made here. I probably still go to that at some point about tomorrow's risk, but after what happened today already, it's hard to know if it'll be worse. The overall models say it will be, but we'll see. And then we have another risk on Sunday as we get toward the northern counties. There's a boundary coming in, and that's going to help spark off some concern here as we look toward our local areas. So, again, something to be very mindful of for sure as we look at the overall situation. That's the overall scenario here, allowing for the storms to potentially be severe. Again, no formal risk today, but we've had a lot of problems, as I've alluded to, localized. I mean, we haven't had really any rain here east of Stark that I'm aware of, maybe a sprinkle, something like that. But, it's these other spots here, it's a different story. As we get out toward the east, we've, had these warnings. We've had damage reports. This looks pretty impressive here, right around Pine Bluff. 45 miles an hour there with the wind. But it could be 60 at the surface with that burst, when things kind of, sometimes they'll go up and go back down here with the meteorology. In fact, let me remind you guys of our covered area. While I do that, I'm going to see if I can get our 3D product up here. So bear with me just a moment. But, just want to remind you guys of the counties that we cover here. I'm going to be looking toward parts of Duval and St. John's and that area to try to see this here in 3 dimensions. I haven't done it on camera yet, I don't think. So I'm going to try to do that now, though. Just try to give you an idea here how this storm axis looks vertically. So, again, watching things carefully. Okay, so here we go in motion now. You can kind of see how this is actually kind of falling back down a little bit here as you look in some of the most recent scans a bit. We have the warning boxes showing up with the polygon, but you can see how it's a little bit higher, but sometimes you get the drop in here of this, and then you get that burst of wind energy down toward the surface that can cause damage here, especially when a storm were to collapse maybe, and sometimes they can collapse a little bit quicker because you can't see it on here, but there is some of that Saharan dust mixing in. I know it sounds crazy, but that is actually is, a factor here today to allow for some of this to happen, a little bit more rapidly like this in terms of that wind really, getting down toward the surface. So again, that's kind of the storyline there as we look at the overall scenario. We'll go to the now view. We'll go ahead and we'll move out of this here. Again, I'm just trying to keep everybody up to date on things here meteorologically. Just trying to be very mindful of the wind potential here. Right there on Pine Bluff, Greenland, Loretto. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe here. You can see west of St. Augustine, we have this potential. Not as apparent, but it's also further from the radar. We have quite a bit of lightning popping up Northern Union, the Baker, and Western Duval, even into Columbia County. There's a new advisory up there now with the overall situation. So again, just got to be mindful of that. Let me see what they're saying about that there at the Weather Service. At the Weather Service in Jacksonville. I'm going to go ahead and see what we have in terms of the very latest information. Going to check their details here. Doppler was tracking a cluster of strong thunderstorms along the line extending from near Watertown to near Maxville. They are moving east at 20. Wind gusts up to 50 possible. Lake City, McClinney, Glen St. Mary, 5 Points, Watertown, Lusty, Sanderson, Brightsville, and Baldwin. So, again, just got to be, really considering, if not, just taking action to get inside that sturdy building there if you're outside right now in this type of inclement situation up into or that part of the region. As we get back over toward the east now, we're going to check things on velocity. You can see around Pine Bluff there, Loretto, Greenland. See some of this wind energy here. And then we have this other warning toward the south. North of Hastings here, this severe warning. This one goes until 6:15. As we keep you guys up to date. Same for this one. Let's get back out of Tallahassee. We have this warning out here. Parts of Leon County here with some of this lightning. A little bit of wind enhancement even outside of that warning now as we get into toward parts of Jefferson. You see a boundary too. I think we're getting some weakening here. We're getting some cooler air being pushed on out. So hopefully, at least for Leon, that's weakening. Now, Thomas County stuff strengthening some, though, as we look toward the north up in here. So we'll have to be mindful of that as we're looking on the map here as we look further up toward the north. So again, just trying to be very mindful here of the situation. We have a warning north of our area. We used to cover this area. Not anymore, but early in Clay and Georgia, severe thunderstorm warning stuff coming out of Alabama. That could be a threat toward Albany later, Albany TV market. But as we get back down here toward the south, looking at all these damage reports here. Tree fell and damaged a residence fence on Heath Drive. We also had a report of a tree on a car now at the corner of Barclay Lane and Godfrey Place. There, power lines also on a car. And then FHP reporting a tree in the roadway, a Bloxham cutoff there. So the Helen Guard Station Road area. So some significant stuff here happening for, isolated, very isolated areas here as we look at the overall situation. Again, just trying to update you guys the best we can. Just trying to be very mindful here. See how much rain this is producing. Okay, so accumulated total, some areas over, well over an inch there, northeast Tallahassee, as we're looking at the latest information here meteorologically. I know we had a 40% chance of rain. I was going higher than some of the guidance was actually for today. But, looks like, in terms of that, let's pull up our totals because this will show us, really it looks like about 30 to 40. But a lot of this has been very impactful here as we're looking at the overall scenario. The overall scenario here, this has been some very impactful storm accident where it's been happening. Let's get back down there toward the south here. You know, a lot went out 2,500 in the dark there after that storm came on through. Again, gust of 66 at the Gainesville airport at 428. At least a half a dozen reports of trees and wires down in Gainesville, mainly in the northeast side of town, as we're looking at things down that way. Okay, do we have another warning? I know we've been getting so many here. Looks like a new warning. Okay, we're seeing upscale growth now near Hastings, just east of Hastings. Upscale growth moving southeast, so that's a different direction now. 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, penny size hail, Hastings, Federal Point, Overlord, Spuds, and Elkton. So it'll 6:45 here. We have a new warning now. I'm just trying to update you guys here the best we can with the overall meteorology. Just trying to be very vigilant here in this type of scenario. So let me read this one off. A 608, a severe thunderstorm was located near Hastings, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, penny size, hail, Hastings, Federal Point, Spud, and Elkton. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Okay, so we have that damaging potential there on Hastings and toward parts of our area there, St. Johns County. Just getting out of Putnam, but part of Putnam's in that too. It's for south central St. Johns and northeastern Putnam County. It'll 6:45 here with this damaging potential. So again, just need to be very cognizant here of what's going on. Very mindful. Got more, issues toward Tallahassee being reported. Tree down in the road at Miccosukee Road into toward Leon with the storms out west. But it looks like the peak gust at the Tallahassee airport was only 43, so that says the hit and miss nature here. I'm a little surprised on that. We'll have to double check to see if that's the case. But, to see if we got anything higher at one point or another out that way. But we have 3 warnings over here. We still have the warning back out west. We have a warning north of our area. That's not a concern for our counties, but let's get over here for the Doppler. Let's see if they've sent out a cancellation. I think they just did. Let's see what they said. I know we had all this energy here. We had over 5,200 joules per kilogram of CAPE energy, surface-based CAPE. The storms, acts in the storms, which prompted the warning out toward the west of weakened below severe limits. They no longer pose an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to expire. So that's the storyline out toward Leon County. So that stuff's weakening. So we still, have to watch to make sure it doesn't regain its strength. But, our bigger concern right now is further out toward the east. So let's get back over to Jacksonville view. Let's get into some of these storms out this way, out toward the east here, out toward the first coast. See parts of southeastern Duval, around Bayard, Greenland, Loretto, Pine Bluff. Definitely impactful. You can see there, this is that storm here in parts of St. John's that had an upscale growth around Spuds and Armstrong. They're saying it's moving southeast of the opposite direction of some of the other activity in general. I mean, opposite completely would be southwest, but instead of northeast, it's going southeast here based on it. It looks like it's growing upward and forming in that direction here as I'm putting it into motion. So that's kind of the storyline here as we're looking into toward that part of the area. Again, let's see what we're dealing with. Let me pull up our forecast model for later on. Okay, so we'll see if things kind of clear on out. Eventually they should, but then as we get into tomorrow, this isn't going to go far enough. I'll have to go into the whole show later on, as we will try to get into some stuff for our main show, but I don't know how long we're going to have to go with it severe, so we're just going to stick with the severe for now. But again, we do have some different elements we're going to try to get into as we look ahead in the timeline for the main 5:30 show. But let's get back here in toward this area, southern Duval, northern St. John's. Seeing some very heavy rainfall, torrential downpour. Be very careful on that evening commute home as we're looking in toward this zone. Bayard, Clarksville. Okay, new warning now that, it was looking pretty gnarly on the radar per se. And now a new warning till 7 o'clock at 6:13. A severe thunderstorm was located near Bay Meadows or near UNF, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. UNF, Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, Palm Valley, Bay Meadows, as well as Bayard there, Craig Field, and San Pablo. So, okay, so new severe thunderstorm warning till 7 o'clock now. Again, you know, all these reports, Weather Service not going to be taking any chances here with this type of setup. Look like I reported some damage there in Clay County. Large tree down in a backyard. It destroyed a screened-in porch there here about 20 minutes ago. So some more damage. These are really having an impact here as we're looking at the situation. Again, this new warning, though, until 7 now for parts of Duval County. So, again, just trying to be very mindful here of what's going on. Okay, so we have this damaging potential. Let's switch our roads up. Let's get our Jacksonville roads on here. This is on Phillips Highway, Racetrack Road. Again, very impactful. This is how it is around here sometimes. I don't have a formal risk of severe weather, but things just happen like this sometimes. Here we have that dust in play. Sometimes we can get that burst of wind energy to happen a little bit more immediately, a little bit more frequently with some of our storms here today. So just looking at all my different monitors here. Just got so much going on, you know, quite a bit of damage being reported. Gotta think, and you know, I can't guarantee it right off in terms of, since we've been doing it with a Barron upgrade here, it's got to be the most active that we've had with damage reports already. You know, and we still have maybe at least another 45 minutes to go with a warning in play for parts of Duval. So, got a lot of damage happening here in our area. Let's go ahead and get back over to the outage information. You can see here, this is just a broad breath. A lot of counties, at least with some outages here on the view. I know they don't look like a whole bunch. A lot of those in a few thousands there. It was a couple thousand when I was looking a little while ago in that range. But again, there's so many folks having problems here, you know, in terms of those hyper local impacts. I say that, you know, but of course, a lot of you, I mean, if you do the reverse of these numbers, a lot of you still have power. A lot of you guys are saying, what is all the concern about? I'm okay. That's how summertime stuff is. But today's summertime stuff, where it is hitting, it's hitting hard, very impactful. But a lot of you guys are staying safe. Some of you guys are having some very dangerous weather conditions. As I see our board just, you know, sending out, you know, more alerts here. So I can see them here. Let me just double check, make sure they're coming so quick. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. This is the two we've talked about that are still in effect now. So let's go ahead and jump back on over to the Doppler. We have this heading up in towards southeastern Duval around Bayard there, Greenland, Phillips Highway, Bates Drive. Again, just continuing to give you the latest. Just trying to keep you informed here the best we can. Trying to update you guys here. Okay, we're going to take a quick 60-second break. I'm going to catch my breath, gather some more information here. I'm going to try to work on getting some traffic camera views. I'm having a little bit of an issue pulling them up on one source here. So I have another backdoor way to do it. So we're going to do that. We're going to take a quick 60-second break here. I want to pull up some traffic cams in southeast Duval. So we're going to do that here. Just bear with me. I'll be back here in 60 seconds with more as we try to keep you guys up to date. I'll probably be off camera a little bit as I'm working on some of that. So I'll be right back here on Cloud Weather with severe coverage. In the last half decade or so, our area and the region have been through a lot. Stay safe, but it's going to be memorable. I was there around 4 p.m. to document them. Life-threatening situation here. So, again, that's the storyline there. Oh, I think we just had another power flash. Another power flash. Sometimes Bradford County is a tough spot to see a spin-up tornadoes, so we just want you to go ahead and be inside and away from windows. Can't even completely run a quick spin-up tornado, so things have started to escalate here. Please take shelter. This is going to cause a lot of damage. Radar-confirmed tornado in southeastern Georgia. We're seeing areas there around Perry. Bear the brunt of this. coming into these communities and ravaging them. That's what we got to get you guys out. You got to run from that water. You got to evacuate. You got to follow these orders. This is as serious of a situation I've seen. This is the eye wall. This is where some of the worst of the weather is. When hazardous weather threatens, trust clouds weather. Back here in the Weather Center now, pulling this up a different way with our traffic system, traffic source to Florida 511, I-95 Racetrack Road. You can see these dreary conditions. You know, in some cases it's more dangerous than this though, with tree limbs falling, maybe trees falling, power lines, this different, you know, type of hazards here are being experienced by folks as we're looking at the overall situation. So again, we have this hazardous weather coming on through right now into portions of the area. Again, this is just one look here at some of the storminess into our zones. Folks, their lights on, having to be very careful here with these hazards. You know, these meteorological hazards coming on through here. Just trying to keep everybody safe. You know, just a really, you know, a lot worse in some zones. So just got to be very mindful of that as we're looking at things here, as we're just updating you guys across our different counties. So again, that's just one viewpoint right now as we're updating you guys on the very latest here, just trying to be here for you, that calm in the storm, you know, with these hazards coming on through, these dangerous weather scenarios here impacting some of you. So back to the radar we go now. We're going to look at some different things here. I know I'm running some things here direct at the computer right now. We're just going to go ahead and look at some of these warnings here, and we're going to try to break things on down. So we have the Jacksonville radar up. I know some of this stuff could go severe in Baker if we're not careful next little bit. Could go severe in Baker. We'll have to just see. I mean, seeing some intensification, it seems, as we look up into toward that area. Seeing the lightning counter, you know, tick up some, not an overwhelming amount, but the way these have gone, they got to be real careful. I mean, look at all the damage around Tallahassee here. You see around Monticello up into South Georgia, not as strong looking as it was, but all these damage reports here in the Leon County. A report of a tree on a car at the corner of Barclay Lane and Godfrey Place. Power lines also in the car. A tree found damage a residence fence there on Heath Drive. A tree there down at Miccosukee Road. Augusta 43 at Tallahassee Airport. A damage report here. Another map tilting makes it look like it's in Wakulla, but I have to zoom out here. It's actually technically in Leon with that. I know that looks really, you know, a little confusing there when we do it like that, but that's actually in the Leon there. And then I'll go ahead and look over toward the east. We have Putnam County, some damage showing on up here around Interlochen. You have hail there. That was reported in Alachua County. You also had Augusta 66 miles an hour and a half a dozen trees being knocked down, you know, along just trees and wires with that total. But and then a large tree down in the backyard there in toward Clay County. Let's get back on in here now. Could have a burst of wind energy right around Phillips Highway. You know, Grand Street there could have that burst of wind energy. As we're looking at things, trying to keep you informed here. I-95, I-295 being impacted here. You know, Sunbeam, Deerwood Club, Stockade. This could be about where the worst of it is, though. That's a little more rural if that's the case, because we have the winds in opposing directions, maybe indicative of a downburst signature. You know, the airport's up here with the radar site. So, you know, it's those winds going here this way. And those are winds going here this way. So that's a burst of wind energy potentially west of Palm Valley. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date on things here. Let's go to power outage numbers again. We're going to pull those on up. Okay, Leon County now over 4,500 in the dark over there. Alachua 1,500. Columbia 500. Baker 100. Gilchrist 100. Bradford 300. We have Clay County that's 100. Marion's 500. So South Georgia. I'll have to get the banner off, but we'll look at some of these. 100 in Lowndes, 100 in Decatur. So again, there are a lot of folks who got electricity in terms of the cumulative number here. So again, just a lot going on here with the very latest information. Let's go back here. If you're just tuning on in, let's do Red Osteroid because that gives us a better broad brush. We're gonna go back 2 hours because that's when we had this damage start really happening around Gainesville. We'll do 5-minute increments. And you'll see we had all the reports down there, but we just had yellow boxes popping up all over the place here. Damage reports to quite a few spots as well. I mean, the worst of which, the worst of which was down toward Alachua County. It seems though you can make an argument Leon now with more power outages than Alachua had. So again, a very, evolving situation, very impactful for a few folks, but a lot of you not even getting rain. It's so tricky here to message that here this time of year with the overall meteorology as we just kind of watch how things played out here with the overall weather picture. The overall weather picture. Let's go ahead and get back into Duval. We'll get the closer radar on this. So Greenland, Bayard, Phillips Highway, Clarksville, Silver Glen Drive, seeing some different impacts. You can see this wind enhancement here. 31, 26, so could have that burst and a little apart from each other, but could have a gust to 60 in there somewhere that causes, damage. Even a gust of under that can cause damage. We have this warning till 6:45 for parts of St. John's and parts of Putnam. And then as we get, further out in the view, I know after all that issue and, of the, like significant other advisories and the damage is what I'm trying to see. All those issues down toward Gainesville Airport there, at least they're calming on down now in terms of the slight rain and toward that zone of our viewing circle toward north central Florida. So let's get back out to the west. Trying to watch things here on the Doppler. The outflow, some gusty winds from that. Maybe get into Madison County there. And then we get back over to the east here, Baker County. Watching things, some winds in McClinney. Maybe on the order of 40 miles an hour, I would say it's possible over there. Again, maybe a burst of wind energy here. Just around Phillips Highway off toward the north. Again, just trying to keep you guys safe and informed. Let me see if there's any more questions, comments from any of the viewers at home here. Looks like we have a Thomas watching, Nicole watching, Jason Peterdale, Adventures watching, Nair watching. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in. It's been very, very busy here in the Weather Center. Just appreciate everybody watching the coverage, though, on this Friday. I know I would call it finally Friday, but our severe threat technically could be higher. It is officially higher, tomorrow and Sunday. I don't know if it could be, something that surpasses this because it's gone, a little out of hand, to be honest with you. But, just looking at some of the questions, comments here, I wish we could have had a normal show today in terms of this, situation that it didn't turn out to be so impactful like this. But that's what we're dealing with here with the severe weather hazards towards some of the different neighborhoods. So again, we will try to go to the forecast model. So let me throw it on up here to the covered area real quick because I have to move some stuff around to get this here for you. We're going to go ahead and try to get a couple things on in. I need to manipulate a couple things in our system as I'm looking at things. I need to get to our 18Z won't, or will it? Let's see. Yeah, 18Z of HRRR. Okay, we can do that. Some of these you can't. I don't normally have to do this on the fly to decide while I'm talking to you guys, but trying to just change some things around here. So let me just see if we can get everything loaded in because I want to see you guys, what we're going to expect here as we look ahead in the timeline. Gonna put some pause points in here too. I mean, the model's pretty aggressive tomorrow, so we're gonna have to be very vigilant. It even has it holding on for a while tomorrow. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that back up now. We're gonna go into our system here, our source. Again, just trying to keep you up to date. Trying to keep you informed here. So this is how we're watching things. Calms down for a while, but as we get into toward that Saturday, at first nothing, but then all of a sudden around 4:30, you see a lot on the radar here, and even more outdoor plans tomorrow. Today, you might have had to be out for work, headed home from work, so it's not ideal either. But tomorrow here is a situation where you have at 4:30 these storms around, and then they're going to hold on here for a good little bit to the evening, kind of like today. And then this actually has them reforming a little bit out toward the west here late at night. We'll see if it happens like this. This is the HRRR, so the 18Z, the extended run. So it's a possibility. I know I had to put this fancy graphic together on the other source here. Let me just go to it manually. This fancy graphic together for tomorrow's threads, but we ended up having this really evolved today. We have that formal risk of severe weather tomorrow, but for Saturday, some severe gusts possible. So dangerous lightning. I mean, it's kind of what we've had today, though, with all the accident around. So again, just something to be mindful of here. Maybe a little hail, maybe a little urban flooding, but it's about the wind gust potential like it has been today, and then that dangerous lightning. So let's get back over to analysis mode for now, though. We have the 2 warnings in our area. That's making sure we're not missing anything. Let's go ahead and get on over here west of Palm Valley. You see some of this wind enhancement here. The E-Town Parkway, moving up toward Ponte Vedra and Ponte Vedra Beach. Be inside there at Ponte Vedra Beach and in that vicinity, Jackson Beach, Palm Valley. Have some lightning around. It's a Friday night. You might be trying to eat outside. Do not be eating, right now outside here. Do not be trying to, enjoy things. You need to be inside. You don't want to get struck by lightning. That's going to be very dangerous. Obviously, there's electrical energy around. Be taking precautions here. In toward this area right now as we're looking toward parts of Duval County this morning going to at least 7 o'clock as we're looking at the overall scenario here. As we're looking at the overall scenario, 1 hour on hail indicator. Seeing a little bit of that potential, but it's about that wind damage potential for certain eastern Duval. This one, a little less aggressive. We're still watching it though. Stuff downstate, really nasty down there as well. Warning north of our area for Early County. As we're monitoring things there. Again, being very mindful of things here with the overall meteorological picture. Again, just trying to update everybody. Let me see if there are any more questions, comments. I see AJ watching there talking about Tallahassee had that big storm earlier on. Pea-sized hail, heavy rain, and tons of lightning around there. So definitely some impactful weather conditions out toward Leon County there as we were looking at the information. So let me get back on over and kind of loop that back around. I appreciate that report there, AJ, as we're looking at things here on this Friday. Let me go ahead and get back on over here and we'll zoom in toward the west. Let's get here to our mode. We're going to go back. Let's go back 2 hours. Do 5-minute increments. We had the advisories, and then that just kind of popped up right there. I mean, they were warning for the one to the south when they put the warning out, but I think they were kind of expecting that accident to fill in like it did. So, again, I mean, that happened, very rapidly there, just in a handful of minutes in toward Leon County there. That's why it's important to have that Cloud Weather app. It'll give you the instant alerts here on these type of adverse conditions. You can also follow my Facebook page there, facebook.com/cloudsweather. It gives you the automated severe thunderstorm warnings when they come on out. But that Cloud Weather app gives you lightning alerts, maybe even getting ahead of the severe thunderstorm warnings here sometimes. That's really important to have. You can download it there. Google Play there, clouds, weather, so cloud apostrophe S weather, and then the Apple App Store, it's listed as KC Cloud Weather. So make sure you download the app. You can even, when it's safe at least, send in those storm pictures or storm damaged photos here, things like that, photos of, things that happen from the storm activity into that Cloud Weather app there. So let's go ahead and go back to the east, though. You can see parts of Baker County, a lot of lightning. There's not an advisory at the moment, but you can see a lot of lightning in there just whenever thunder roars. Go indoors here as we get back over toward the east. Let me get in here with the radar, Palm Valley. This looks a little weaker, but we're headed right toward the coast. So everybody outside here, maybe eating, at the beach here. Okay, they've actually really trimmed that back. These storms are just changing direction on us. Very interestingly, because this was headed more northeasterly. What in the world? Let's go ahead and look here now. It's now made more of an easterly turn here, it seems, or maybe, just kind of drifting on off here as we're looking at the overall situation. So, again, switching directions with us. That's how these storms will do sometime. This one's also been trimmed back a little bit as we look toward the south here. There's also, I see a new warning from Tallahassee office. That's north of our area, thankfully. We did used to cover up there, so I'll mention it briefly. West of Albany, severe thunderstorm warning until 7:45. Some of these different counties up there. So have friends and family up there. Make sure you're watching, Albany television for the very latest on that, and just the overall information coming on out with the, weather data, the weather radio information, things along those lines. So social media. But again, let's get back down here toward the south and the east. So let me check what they said on this here, because you can tell they, changed the movement on that. Our sketch showing a different movement as well. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Friday. Okay, so the latest update from the Jacksonville office. They're now saying moving east toward Palm Valley. East at 10. The other one's moving southeast, by the way, but they're saying east. So you can see how it's headed more northeast, and it's kind of really switched directions, seeing decay on some of the northern fringes here as you look at things, as you track things here. Different interactions can sometimes cause shifts. You have boundaries involved, and just all sorts of stuff can happen here this time of year to change things around. You get toward parts of St. Johns County here. See some of that impact down there on Gopher Ridge. That warning until 6:45. The warning further up till 7. And this is starting to show, special weather statement type of criteria again in toward Baker County. So again, just continuing to give you guys the very latest here on things. Just trying to keep everybody safe. Our computer's working very hard here. Trying to, get the latest updates on in. Let me go ahead and go to 7-day. We'll go ahead and see that now. As we look at things, you can see that storm threat has only a 40% chance today. Granted, I went higher than a lot of the guidance, and technically the coverage, I showed you how a lot of us didn't get storm accident, but some areas, some more populated areas did get it. So, getting up into the, almost the triple digits here, very impactful type of temperatures here for sure as we're looking at the overall grand scheme of things, and then allowing for all these storms to evolve, and then, they kind of fall apart, and they put out this wind and this damage here toward different neighborhoods of the viewing circles. So very impactful in that regard. And the current temperatures here now, you have 76 around Gainesville, 75 Tallahassee. That says we've had impactful weather in bigger population areas here. We really haven't had much around dark. The sun's back out. See dark skies though. But again, just trying to keep everybody safe here. Lots of storm energy around with the atmospheric instability. Just kind of showing you that here. Just got to be very mindful of that, scenario with the unstable conditions. Did they cancel the warning over Palm Valley? It looks like they might have. Let me see what they're saying. Again, so Rompon Valley, a lot of lightning, but on Jack's Beach, you still, if you're hearing those rumbles of thunder, you still gotta be careful. Still wouldn't be outside because one rogue strike, cloud to ground one could be really problematic. Okay, the warning for St. John, North Central St. John, Southeastern Duval is canceled. The storm was prompted. The warning has weakened below severe limit and no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning has been canceled. So that's some good news up toward Palm Valley here. And we're looking at the scenario up that way as we're looking toward that part of the area. I'm going to still watch Baker County here carefully. We're going to watch the north parts of St. Johns County there. That warning goes to 6:45. Let me see if they've sent anything out on that one. Not seeing anything yet, but I mean, that was an update recently on that. So, again, just trying to update you guys here on the situation. We'll get back over to the main radar. In terms of being able to see most of this stuff, you can see stuff out toward Monticello. Pretty strong here with some of this. Northeast of Monticello. I'll have to see if that gets a warning. A little more with this one direction now, it looks like. So maybe not as much of that burst of wind energy, but I know, for instance, up here now, you'd have to use the Southeast Alabama radar to get a better look. This is in our area, but I just wanted to show you how there's more of the greens and reds involved with the velocity. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe here. Look at all those damage reports up into the Carolinas. They've been seeing a big impact up there. They do have a formal risk up there. No, we didn't have a formal risk, but we've had a lot of issues and now got a new warning. Okay, so this one goes to 8 o'clock now. So you can see we have our risk for tomorrow and for Sunday, but this is a really long fused warning here as we look up toward Valdosta. I think there could be enough of this wind energy trying to get down now toward the surface. So Madison, Jefferson, Brooks, Lowndes until 8 o'clock now. So again, another severe thunderstorm warning popping on up here as we're looking at the overall scenario. So just need to be taking precautions here as we look into toward parts of our area. This burst, of wind, maybe we start to see this shifting of the direction here, but you can definitely see our yellow box popping on in here. Let me read that warning off, that statement from the Weather Service. I know we have this warning on point at 8 o'clock now. Let me see what they're saying. At 6:39, a severe thunderstorm was located 10 miles southwest of Quitman, moving east at 25 miles an hour. Lake Park, Quitman, Valdosta, I-75 at exit 16. Bremerton, Dasher, Grooverville, Twin Lakes, Cherry Lake, Hamburg, Valdosta Airport, Kinderloo, I-75 exit 5. Lovett, Clyattville. Just got to be really mindful here. Brooks County Airport, Blue Springs, so northeastern Jefferson, northern Madison, southwestern Lowndes, southern Brooks until 8 o'clock. 60-mile-an-hour wind gust potential there is a possibility as we look toward portions of the area. So that's a really long fused warning, but that's what we have right now. Let's go ahead and get back on over here to the east. Again, this warning went away. This here is showing some signs of, I don't know if I hate to say strengthening. Let me look at our lightning counter. Maybe not strengthening, but holding its own. West of McClenny, around the Kinney community. Let me go ahead and see if there's any more questions or comments here. I know AJ talking about how the power's out around town and patio furniture is blowing all around there in toward Leon County with the impact from earlier on. So those storms definitely, causing some problems there toward the Big Bend region. Also, out toward the east here as well, as we've been alluding to. So again, just trying to be very mindful here of what's going on. We'll go ahead and loop the radar back 2 hours again. Things just evolved very rapidly there. I mean, about the same time you had the warning pop up, we started getting some damage in different spots, and then that's how it's playing out earlier on. Let's put velocity on. I'm gonna let this, let me make this 5-minute increments, and we'll just let this play on out. You can see how we had the wind coming in from the south, but we had a lot of issues up to the north here at the beginning of this loop as well. I mean, that really happened quick. Let's just watch that here. I mean, we had the advisory issued like at 5:07, and within a minute we had the warning, but it's more for the south. But you can see how I had that burst of wind happen right there. I mean, literally, we didn't have an advisory at 5:05, and by 5:15, we're having damage happen from the burst of wind energy around Bradfordville and Bridle Path Acres, Oak Knoll Estates, and that was just a really impressive signature over there earlier on. Thomasville Road. It's just very quick how things can happen. This is what they were warning for, really. There's some damage down there too. I mean, they had the advisory on that one, but then just really coming up toward the airport. Didn't have as much right at the airport apparently, but we had that burst. It's right when this, we're getting these to happen so quick today, that dust being, really a factor with things maybe falling apart a little quicker at times, and that allows the burst of wind to happen. Again, I'm just scrubbing back and forth here, just kind of, it's just, if you're not from around here, we see it every year, sometimes not quite this dramatic though, but you can't, that's almost unbelievable how quickly these will evolve like this, and this one to the north especially, because literally, we didn't even have an advisory at 5:05. Let's look at it on radar. It wasn't much. This is how it looked at 5:05. And then you get, and then just so quickly, and then we're getting damage. We had tree fall and damage to residence fence there on Heath Drive. We also had a report of a tree on a car at the corner of Barclay Lane and Godfrey Place. Power lines also on a car. So, again, things happening fast here this time of year with this type of setup here meteorologically. Let's get to now mode because I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, so our warning went away to the south here. This warning also went away, as we were alluding to. There's a marine warning further out. But our only warning is now this one, but it's a pretty big area here, and it's a long fuse one. I don't know if it'll last that long in this type of setup. It's a little bit more, like I was saying with the winds, maybe not going to be quite as much of that burst here, maybe a little more sustained, maybe not quite as high, and, as much damage potential in a certain, hyper local type of location, but still, again, just got to be very mindful here of what we're talking about, what we're dealing with. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe and informed here. I see stuff moving toward Albany there. We'll see if that holds together, but just continuing to give everybody the very latest. Continuing to watch things here for our area. There's been a lot going on. Getting some of this up even into Georgia, as I've been alluding to here. The overall story. We're going to kind of pull up some different elements that we would have had in the show, like when we're talking now. So if the warning goes away, we can kind of wrap. But I'm going to see our Saharan dust graphic here momentarily. I think we have that ready here, in fact. Let me pull it up in our other mode. So 5 p.m. tomorrow, you see all that dust to the south, but even up here, we're getting some of that as well. But, they're really getting into that there in South Florida. That's really dense dust there. Up here, it's more just having an impact on getting us the burst of wind energy. I know it's just something to be mindful of here. I know I'm going to do this a way I'm not really supposed to do it, but we're just going to kind of scrub here with the timeline a little bit. We've just, very fluid situation. Like, I'm going to take us to 8 o'clock tonight here on this. And you can kind of see how it wasn't as much today toward the south, but up here, we've had quite a bit, and, having that same type of potential for tomorrow. So let me go ahead. I'll set this so we can put this into motion a little. So we'll scrub through here. See how that kind of comes on up. And then on Sunday, I mean, even Central Florida is getting that pretty thick, up here. And that can impact, folks, in terms of those maybe with respiratory conditions, even not as much up here, but more about impacting us, maybe increasing our severe threat happening. Things happening so quick here, like they did today, with stuff popping up and then going back down, or, in terms of that. And it's actually pushing out the severe winds quick, almost too quick to even warn people about, which is problematic, obviously. And we didn't have a formal risk today, really, for most of us. We did at one point, but it got trimmed out. But, tomorrow we do have a formal severe risk. We do have a formal severe risk on that Sunday as well. So let's get back to analysis mode, then we'll talk about that. As we look at things, we have the severe warning here on play. Let's go ahead and we'll look here. Again, there's, today, general thunderstorms, but we've had an impact. This happens every year. I mean, you'll just have stuff like this happen. It's just part of the country, the nature of things. But tomorrow we have a formal risk for most of us here of severe weather, and it's even more pronounced to the north. They're going to have some, impacts up there. We'll have to see how it gets up there, because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, we don't want to even compete with it, in terms of them being able to beat what we had today, because we've had a lot here today in terms of our area. But I mean, they've had a lot in terms of flooding, terrible flooding on the national level up toward like Missouri. So let's get to national radar in here. All these flood alerts in play. I mean, in Missouri, there's a flash flood emergency situation. Some areas just getting this extreme amount of rain. 12 inches of rain with a home underwater in southeast Missouri there last night. This is, there, if you have relatives up in this zone, it wasn't near as bad out toward like St. Genevieve and Perry counties. I have relatives in that area. That's why I kind of talking about it like that. But further back, it was very impactful. Watch your local meteorologist for more on that. But just, the overall situation there, definitely impactful for sure, as we, all that flooding up there, just awful, awful stuff. We'll show you, let's show 2-day rain. Here has been scattered. Up there, not scattered. Not scattered at all. Just look at all that terrible rain action. But then you go to the east, that's a huge difference. But then that's a pretty big number. As we look, just, it's crazy how things can happen in meteorology. Crazy how things can happen in meteorology. So awful with that flooding threat, though, like that report of a home underwater up there. But as we get back, closer to home, we still have our severe thunderstorm warning in play. Seeing our wind potential here, parts of Jefferson, it's moving out of there more so, and into Madison, though, and parts of Brooks and Lowndes. See an outflow boundary. Let's look at this, because let's look at our lightning counter. It's not a huge amount here. This may end up, again, we might see the warning go away early. It goes all the way to 8 o'clock. I hope it goes away early, but we'll see. Let me go ahead and check some more information here. Just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on this Friday with a special coverage. It's extended coverage here of the meteorological situation. And so we go between some of the different Doppler scans. Even a tornado warning in North Carolina now, by the way. We don't have much of that threat around here, but you never say never. Just always got to stay vigilant. And the heat advisory, but that's about to go away. You see how this wind damage, though, in Putnam? We had, and let me get over to that other radar, but social media report of a large tree limb blocking part of County Road 315 north of Interlaken. A large tree down in a backyard destroying a screening porch around Switzerland in Clay County there. Looks like a couple different reports. Let me try to click on the other one. We'll try to click on this other one here if we can. Several trees down in the Fleming Island area. Okay, that's one we haven't talked about yet. So some more impacts, and let's get into what our power outage information. .600 out in Clay County, 300 in Bradford, 300 in Baker, 400 in Columbia. I mean, we haven't even seen any rain here where we're at around Stark, but 100 in Gilchrist, 1,500 in Alachua, 500 out in Marion, 2,500 out in Leon, 100 out in North South Georgia. Look how many are out around Tampa. Let's just look at this. 9,000. That's a huge number out down there, but again, continue to give you the latest. I know we have some air quality impacts, from the overall dust. And you can see it's, not perfect in spots here. Marion, some, concern and that it's not the ideal air quality. Some what it's being called as particulate matter here. As we look at that, as we just look at the different Doppler scans here. Let's see where else we want to go with this. I know it's going to stay hot. Your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. I mean, look at this here. It's going to be impactful in terms of that heat still as we look ahead in the timeline. Above average temperatures in terms of precip. Well, maybe a little above, but not as noteworthy. 18, 14 day temperature. Maybe not as above average, but still impactful in precip. Not something noticeable, but maybe a little above. So that's something to be mindful of. I know the reason we're staying with this, we have a severe thunderstorm warning here for parts of our area. We've had a slew of damage reports earlier on as we've, been talking about, but this severe warning goes all the way to 8 o'clock there for parts of Madison County, parts of Brooks County, Lowndes County. So just got to be very mindful here of the situation. As we look in here, let's get down to street level. You see around Bailey, around Northwest Lovett Road, Northwest Little Cat Road there, Northwest Hare Avenue. So again, just continuing to watch things. Let me check our updates here. I want to see if we have anything new from the Weather Service. Checking the Tallahassee office details here the best I can. Okay, east at 25 is the movement they had on this. I don't know how much this is going to hold together, but let's just track it as if it could. Let me watch the motion on it first. Let's see if I lost it by 724, but let's do the outflow, because that'll have some wind with it too. You see Lake Partner 725. Again, giving you guys an idea of some of the times of arrival. Let's get back to the storms to the east here. You see north of McClinney, some wind damage potential, maybe in a very isolated manner though. And maybe Nassau's a little bit more so. There's no formal warning. I don't want to see a lot. I just, we have the advisories and the way things have happened today. You have to be on guard, but not seeing anything right off that stands on out. We do need that rain though, because last 30 days here, we were still behind in terms of those rainfall amounts. Like Marion County, we're a few inches behind. Levy County, a few inches. Taylor County. Leon, I know they've had a lot of storms, but we still need rain in towards some of these different spots here. For 365 days, we're way behind in terms of rainfall. We kind of look at some of the different numbers. Even in Georgia, I mean, some spots not as much, so we don't, maybe, a surplus or close, but let me go ahead and see here. We'll go over to hydro. We'll go over to 12-hour rainfall. This is off of Jacksonville. Some spots in Bradford getting a good little bit. We really didn't get much here east of Stark, but some spots getting almost an inch. East of Stark, maybe a trace here, something like that. Northern Alachua, 1.7 near the airport where they had all that damage there. Some spots, the heat advisory, it's weird seeing that still in there, but over 2 inches, parts of Gainesville. As we're looking down there, Levy County, parts of that area, 2 inches, but Cedar Key, none. Some of the different spots. And then let's get back out toward the west here. We'll get over to the Tallahassee radar, the current view. The warning's still there, but, out toward the east, moving toward Valdosta. But let's go 12-hour rainfall. See how hit and miss some of this was. 2 inches there in the north part of Leon. Northeast Leon, northeast Tallahassee, a half inch there in the southern part of the county. Some spots, nothing though. A lot of spots, nothing. So we still need more rain despite all this damage in spots, other spots. It's a crazy storyline, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at here. Again, we're sticking with it because of this severe warning. See this wind damage potential, it still could be there. Let's check some different views. Let's say they're a little stronger from Valdosta, which is the closer to radar. So still got to be aware there. Let me go ahead and just to be mindful of things here. Just trying to keep you informed on things. Going through some of the different data points that we have available to us. Okay, so let's go to, so today our flash flood risk, formally we don't have it, but it's, there's one up further in the north in the country for sure. But as you kind of look at this here, day 2, it gets a little further south. Day 3, we start to have that approach. But then, this is the forecast for today. We won't worry about that as much as looking at tomorrow's rainfall forecast. I know we still have the warnings on here, but tomorrow's rainfall forecast, you see, this is just broad brush. Some spots could get way more than this here, obviously. It's not going to be the exact spot, but this is the official forecast. But it kind of shows you maybe a little more toward the eastern areas here. But there's still that threat further back as well. See more on day 3 there for Sunday. Day 4, day 5, a little less. Seeing those chances start to fall off some. As we look, here's your full rainfall outlook. As we get over next week, some spots on average could get a couple inches. Tallahassee there, a little less maybe. Still not enough rain despite some severe threats. As we look at the overall picture. It's kind of, unfortunate. Because it'd be nice if we just got a whole bunch of rain here. We didn't have all this, severe nuisance, but we had the rain. Instead, we're kind of getting the opposite. So again, we still had the warning. That's why we're staying on so long here. Let me go ahead and see what else we have here. That looks like it's weakening on off. Could still get a burst of wind energy at the end of that, though, but I don't think that's going to last to 8 o'clock there. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe here, everybody informed. I know we've been talking about El Nino with the tropics here. We're going to go ahead and show you some of the sea surface temperatures. And they're still pretty warm out here, but the thing about it is you need, a situation where we have all this dust, that's suppressing things. We have, just a lot of things, wind shear. We have stuff that, in theory, if it could develop, closer to home, the conditions more favorable closer to home. But, not necessarily going to get that. But as we look toward those fall and winter months, the spring months, we could have more severe weather events like squall lines. Now, they could produce a good bit of rain, too, which would be good. But, we could have severe weather, maybe tornadic weather, which we got to be aware of here as we look ahead later on in toward the year. So just be aware of that. I know this here in Dust Later, this is a different way to sew it. I haven't actually looked at it this way before. Let me see if it'll let me back it up any. Okay, it's doing some weird stuff when I try to back it up. But this is, sewing the dust a little bit more entrained into some of our northern areas right now. Just a different way, different product. We have wind shear. Have some of that wind shear around as we're looking at the overall weather. I know it says road temperatures. I don't know why it's saying that, but this is wind shear. all that precipitable water. We have high, and that's in a different. I'm going through stuff right now because we've been on so long, but we need to look at that in inches. But it's definitely there's a lot of moisture available is where I'm going with this. So again, something to be aware of as we look here. Don't have anything too crazy with wave heights, locally. As you get further on out, you have some of that, but we don't have anything in the tropics to watch, so kind of goes in tune with that for sure. Let me see what else we want to talk about. I know as we get toward El Nino, we'll have to watch for that tornado threat in the fall months, so you'll just want to know. And let's look at this storm first because I want to be careful still in a tornado safety graphic a little bit. I want to do that, but we don't have that type of threat right now. We don't have that type of threat right now. It doesn't seem like we have some stronger winds still keeping this warning a little bit longer, but for the Octobers and Novembers and Decembers, we may need to know about tornado safety. So remember that bathroom, that closet here, interior room on the lowest level is always a safe option. So that's what we got to worry about here in the El Nino pattern as we look ahead in toward the timeline, because if we don't have an active hurricane season, like that's what we're expecting, then we could still be very, much having to watch towards severe weather season for enhanced severe season. Even if we get a, storm set up here, even if we get a storm to set up, it's a one-off. It only takes one. You still got to be aware of that, but then you still have to watch out for the overall pattern later on as well. So, okay, so we're trying to give you the latest here. Just trying to effort some more information here behind the scenes. Just having some fire situations evolve lately here toward our area. Let me go back to the broad view. Let's go to rainfall here. This is 7-day. Some spots getting to quite a bit, as I've talked about. This is a broad brush. But other spots, nothing hardly. That's not what you want to see, obviously. So it's just really hit and miss from one spot to another here toward our counties as we look at the overall situation. Just a huge differential. I mean, look at all that in parts of Marion County. Parts of Levy, almost nothing. It's just so hit and miss. That's how it is every summer, though, pretty much. I mean, normally we have a little bit more coverage, so I would say that's, while we're still in that deficit here last 30 days, as I was talking about. Looks like we're getting some new storm acts in there to pop up southeast side of Bainbridge. Well, that's a significant advisory now to 7:30. Let me go ahead and look at that information. Looking like a scenario there where the strong thunderstorm 9 miles southwest of Wiggum or 11 miles southeast of Bainbridge, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. So the Cairo area could get some 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts here over the next little bit. Again, trying to update you guys. Let me see if there's some more questions, comments. I've been very busy here in the Weather Center. I know Danielle talking about around Albany. I know I'll look at it really quick here. It's not our formal area anymore, but we will look at it just real fast here. I know, make sure you're paying attention to the local meteorologist in toward that area, but off the Tallahassee River, which is a little far up, but you can see some of the storm accent headed kind of in that general vicinity here. We'll see if it kind of holds together toward Albany. Let me back this up to last hour. We'll just have to kind of wait and see here, but definitely some damage and wind potential. So got to be mindful of that up there and towards further up in South Georgia. But as we go ahead and keep on giving you guys the latest updates here, just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me here on the different platforms. Look like 9 of you sticking with me right now on YouTube, 1 on Twitch. Just appreciate everybody tuning in. I know we really had to start off with some pretty, stressful type of conditions here with a bunch of warnings popping up here at once. After we already had some damage there earlier on toward Gainesville, some impacts there. Not much of this significant, accent right here in terms of I don't want to even call it a severe thunderstorm anymore. That's why we have the advisory further east. Maybe some outflow, but it seems to be falling apart here as we look. But we may get a warning back out here. It's not out of the question in this setup. Attapulgis to climax. Just pay attention over there. Again, that's your stuff up towards towards southwest Georgia. Those are counties out of our area. West of Albany, some damage and wind gust potential. Let me just look at that a little bit more carefully there real quick. I know the Tallahassee Weather Service, they keep tabs on that. They're on the FSU campus and do a great job keeping everybody up to date. That warning there, I've been warning for some 60-mile-an-hour wind gust potential. Hail, probably not a big threat with that, but again, trying to keep just everybody up to date here on things. Let's see that 7-day here again, in case you missed that. You see the hot conditions here. That's what we had today, but we've cooled off some. We're in the mid-80s here east of Stark right now. I know as we look there towards Saturday, towards Sunday, as we look further on in the timeline, we actually have a higher coverage of storm action, with the boundary coming in from the north. So, in fact, let me get our Barron 3K model ready to go to show you guys. I know we're having to do this kind of piecemeal because, I've been in severe coverage for the last couple hours. But let me just, I wish we were talking about, that situation here. It was all fun yesterday talking about the rocket launch. What a view that was here yesterday morning. But today really took that turn with all these warnings. There is now a severe warning, by the way, into Albany, north of our area. But I'm going to get our Barron 3K model ready. But severe warning at 8:30 for Dougherty County up that way. But I'm going to get our Barron 3K model up. I just wanted to show you something a little fun here. It's been all stress here the last couple hours. And that was just a great view yesterday morning there of the rocket launch. So as we're looking at things and we're tracking them. But let's get that Barron 3K model ready to go to show you. It'll take me just a second. Just a one-man band here, but all about trying to give you guys the very latest on things. Again, just trying to get everything together for you. It's all about updating you guys the best we can. So important here. I know we're going to have a full show tonight for you, but didn't happen because of our, active weather thing taking that escalation. But, always trying to give you guys the very latest, the best we can. So I'm going to get our Barron 3K ready to show you guys. Let's get our camera view set up here. Doing some of this behind the scenes real quick. That's why you see that fun picture, because unfortunately things have been far from fun now here this afternoon as we're looking, as we're monitoring things across the area. So here's that forecast model. We're just going to keep on looking at things here. Putting that into motion. See quite a bit to the north there, but then I'm going to be busy in Tennessee and Alabama, Georgia, but you saw quite a bit around here as well. And then Sunday could be even busier here toward our area with even maybe higher coverage of some of that rain. And then as we look in toward Monday, you can see it's going to still be busy around here. So just got to stay weather aware. Stay tuned to the latest. A lot more cover to the moisture, even if we don't have, especially later on, as much in the way maybe, warnings once we have less, energy. But tomorrow we may still have that energy, and we have that dust in there, and then we have this boundary, and the boundary's been pretty far up, but it's dropping on down, and that's why we're going to be watching tomorrow, with that potential for sure as we look at everything here meteorologically. So again, let's get back to the current radar. Okay, we got a new warning now. Okay, we got a new warning. Okay, this little storm up here now, potentially severe as we get around Morven. Some 40-mile-an-hour gusts, but they think it could be up to 60. I mean, everything that we've had happen, you just never know. Again, down here, we still have a warning. There's not much even to see on the radar. But here, there could be that burst of wind energy now for parts of Brooks and Lowndes and northern areas. So let me go ahead and read off the statement here from the Weather Service. Looking at the latest. Northern Lowndes, Central, Brooks until 8 o'clock at 7:11. A severe thunderstorm was located 7 miles north of Quitman, moving east at 15 miles an hour. Quitman, Valdosta, Hahira, Moody Air Force Base, of course, and then Bremerton, Morven, I-75 at exit 29, Barrett, Brooks County Airport, and I-75 at exit 22. So, new severe thunderstorm warning at 8 o'clock as we're looking up that way. See all that wind in there. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but the problem is, the 30 could actually be 60 here in this pattern. I mean, this is a hot way to look at where the stronger winds could be. That says a little higher. That's a false signature, though, but out ahead. But the point is, it could be 60 in there because of that burst of wind energy, like what we're talking about. That's caused so many to lose power here. So that's why we have that new warning at 8 o'clock. They still haven't dropped the one to the south here, trying to err on the side of caution. Let's look at a radar further away. I know we have to watch this storm out here in Decatur and Grady. We have that warning up toward Albany I was alluding to, north of our area now. But then power outage information. A lot of areas with some outages here and there, as we've been alluding to, as we've been talking about. Definitely impactful. Definitely problematic. Again, just appreciate everybody sticking with me. We're, with you now. We've completed 2 hours, getting into hour 3 here of severe weather coverage now, per se, as we keep you guys up to date on things here across the viewing circle. Again, Morven to Hahira. Again, updating you guys the best we can. Worse, that's south of Adel right now, by the way. I know we don't cover Adel anymore, but we used to. And okay, now we got another warning. So this is popping up now. This is the one I was alluding to. Parts of Decatur and Grady until 8:30 now. So as we're looking here, we have to be very mindful. Let me read off the statement from the Weather Service in Tallahassee. A 7:16, a severe thunderstorm was located near Wiggum, or 10 miles southeast of Bainbridge, moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. Cairo, Wiggum, Attapogus, Climax, Acreage, Grady County Airport, Capel, Harold Still. You have Reno there. You have areas like Pine Park. It might be called Reno in that area. I'm not 100% sure, but Decatur and Grady at 8:30. Some damage and wind potential. As we're looking out that way, some damage to roof side and trees, a possibility. Again, just gotta be careful here. You see around Climax, doesn't so strong, but we could have winds of 60 based on all the history with these storms we've had today. So many damage reports. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me switch some things up here. Let's put our damage reports on. And we'll turn off alerts. We'll turn off the skits. And I'll go, I know, let's see, where do I want to go with this? Let's just, we'll put Baron Button on. You can kind of see all the damage reports here. I mean, this is around Fleming Island as I circle over here. This is in northwestern Putnam County or Interlaken. Gainesville reported a gust of 66 miles an hour as we're looking over there. Hail was also reported. You have report that was, I don't think that was as impactful over there. Maybe a new one. That's the bad thing about doing it like this. I have to double check some of these because that was only the 40. So we won't circle that one. And then that one here, is that a new report? Okay, tree and power line down near Scott Road and Richterville Road there on 630 in Thomas County. All these reports are on Tallahassee. So there's been a lot of damage here reported for sure in the covered area. We still have active warnings. That's why we're with you. Still have all the current warnings here. 3 of them in our area, 2 just north of the area, as we're keeping you guys up to date. So I know heat's still a story for some tomorrow as we're looking ahead, but right now we got to get to these warnings. Let's go ahead and keep you guys informed here. We zoom back on in. Climax to Wiggum. Definitely could have a burst of wind energy in there. To the east here. See some of this wind impact about to be crossing there, I-75. As we look at the information. Just being very mindful. Again, just trying to update you guys the best we can. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning on in here and trusting me. Okay, we're going to zoom back out. Let's get a Tallahassee radar. Let me get our tilt. I'll just, we'll do it like this. Make sure we reset things. Then we'll get on in here. Again, all that wind potential. More wind potential in here around Morven, maybe. You know, heading out of Brooks County and into parts of Lowndes. Again, there's still severe weather around Tampa. They've had a lot of problems down that way. That's not our area, but there's been problems down there. Look at all that wind down there. I mean, that's pretty, nasty stuff down that way. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, if you're traveling, this is, really impactful down there. Let's see, the county power is total. Goodness. 26,000 customers in the dark down there around Tampa. It's not our area. I'm just showing you that's a story that should be a national story if it's not already. Down toward Tampa, 26,000 customers out in Hillsborough County, but up here we have 400 out in Marion, 1,500 out in Alachua, 2,000 in Bradford. 200 in Bradford. Excuse me. I mean, I still can't believe that 26,000 in North Hillsborough though. That Saharan dust really playing a role in getting all that wind down to the surface. They did have a marginal risk down there. We had 100, out in Gilchrist, 300 out in Columbia. You can see 600 out there, Brooks County, it looks like, because I need to zoom over here. And then we have Lowndes 100, Decatur 100, and Leon 2,000, Thomas 100. So again, just an impactful story for sure, as we're keeping you guys up to date on things. As we're keeping you guys informed. There's so many outages again. I know that's not our area, but they have been getting hammered around Tampa. That is just a huge number, 26,000 in the dark there around Tampa. I mean, Polk County's at 1,000, and to the north there, 1,000, as well. Just so impactful, this weather, as we keep you guys informed here. Just trying to keep you up to date. I see Shelby watching here on Facebook. Remember her from college there at FSU. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you're doing good too. Just appreciate everybody tuning in here, trusting me on this Friday. Again, trying to give everybody the latest information here. I know. Back out there in FSU. That's where I was at college there. It's been a good little bit now. Hard to believe, but they've had the storms around there today. I need to go back more than an hour to show you guys that. We'll go back 3 hours here. Look at all that lightning around there. And I'm going to put our storm reports back on. Just all that impact there, all these damage reports into Leon County. We'll go over some of these here. FHP reporting a tree down in the roadway, a block them cut off. Tree down partially blocking Orange Avenue West and Walnut Street. A report of a tree on a car at the corner of Barclay Lane and Godfrey Place. Power lines also in the car. A tree fell and damaged a residence fence there on Heath Drive. A tree down partially blocking Centerville Road near Bradfordville Road. Also a tree down there at Miccosukee Road. So a lot of, events there in terms of damage. And then in Lord Thomas County, a tree and power line down near Scott Road and Richterville Road. And into the east, of course, we had some damage reports as well. Just so much happening there. We had some hail around Noonan's Lake in Alachua County, but we had a gust of 66 miles an hour. We also had, at least a half a dozen reports of trees and wires down in Gainesville, mainly the northeast side of town there. And then in Putnam County, a social media report of a large tree limb block in part of Kane Road 315 north of Interlochen there. Several trees down in the Plymouth Island area. Also a large tree in a backyard there on Switzerland in Clay County, destroying a screened-in porch. So a lot of storm damage reports for sure, and that's why we're sticking with you here. When we have all the overall active weather conditions ongoing, across our 38 county area. Let's see where some of this is headed, because some of the models had this stuff, we may not be done here. Some of this stuff from, West Central Florida may end up, I know, wasn't really showing what I was showing that clear, but some of the stuff I looked at behind the scenes earlier had this being a threat toward like Levy and Marion later tonight. So we may have more warnings to come here as we're looking, as we have this advisory popping on up. Let's pull the Tampa radar in for this so we can kind of see what this might be doing a little bit better. You can't see a lot of it because this stuff is just dwarfing it. It's so, significant down toward Tampa. I mean, it's so impactful all over. These are unbelievable type of, widespread winds going through a metro area down there. Just hope people are paying attention to the local meteorologists down there on Tampa. This is very, very impactful weather down toward the Tampa area here over the last few hours. I mean, happening on marginal risk here, down there. I'll just loop it, and I know I need to go faster than 1 minute increments, but we'll kind of loop. They've had severe thunderstorm warnings, more than one there in toward that area. It's so impactful down that way, and a lot of that'll be more in the coastal waters. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think it'll make it all the way to Tallahassee to the Gulf there, but we'll keep our eyes on it, in terms of the overall trajectory. But this stuff here might be an issue for our southern fringes. Could have a lightning show later tonight. Looking, if you're from Tallahassee, looking toward the Gulf. We'll have to see how that kind of plays on out. I know this product here is not, just perfect, but We're going to try to use it here. It's going to say you what could happen. I mean, I think it'd move a lot quicker than that, though. But as we go ahead and get to the north here, looks like damage west to Albany as well. Multiple trees down there. And again, all of our local damage reports we keep alluding to. We keep alluding to them. The reason we're still with you, multiple severe warnings here on the board. Multiple severe warnings here. Got a new warning, it looks like. And that one is just north of our area, though. Moultrie. Used to cover Colquitt County, not anymore, but give you it's just while we're on, some more damaging potential there around Funston. But we have 3 local warnings right now. This, and this. Now, granted, this one, there's not a lot there in that southern fringe, but, up toward Ahira, we got to be careful there. Morven to Ahira. It's going to be damaging wind potential up there. You see west of Cairo around Wiggum. Some damaging wind potential over there. And again, these have such a history. I wish I could say, well, maybe these aren't going to produce, but we've had so much already producing here today. We can't take any chances. I mean, look at that. Tree down, partially blocking Orange Avenue at Walnut Street in Leon County earlier on. I mean, these have already produced so many damage reports. It's not taking much to produce the damage reports here today in terms of getting these bursts of wind energy down toward the surface. So, again, trying to keep you guys informed here on things. Just going through all the latest data points. And that Moultrie storm, let me track it because they're tracking it east. I think it's going a little north based on our skip, but depending on how this goes here. We'll have to see if it clips where maybe later. I don't know if it's going to hold together that far, but you kind of get the idea. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe and informed. Let's get on in here. Parts of Brooks, parts of Lowndes to 8. Let's get down to street level mapping. Interesting road name here. I guess this considering going on for the last 2.5 hours. I mean, it just moved past it, but Snake Nation Road. That's apparently a road name. And then Thunderbolt Road, there's Silo Road, and now the window is moving over toward Misty Valley Circle. This looks pretty strong around the Tillman community. Looks like something here in Hamilton County. Little burst of wind energy. I mean, this is not much in terms of reflectivity. And yet it looks like a little downburst here. Right there as we get in real tight. That's in parts of Hamilton into northern Columbia. Around northwest Hopewell Church Terrace. That's a little burst of wind energy. I mean, 22 and 32. And there's, 4 lightning strikes in this frame. So these are happening pretty fast. I mean, didn't even have much there 15 minutes ago. That's why the Weather Service is just issuing warning after warning because, I mean, we literally, had a situation earlier. I don't think, it was kind of realized here just how volatile things were as he got further on up with the overall setup here, from, the ground level upward there because it was pretty strong looking on radar compared to these even. We didn't get a warning though toward Gainesville because maybe it wasn't, producing the traditional severe signatures. Also pretty far away on the radar. It wasn't maybe producing a traditional severe signature for a normal severe day, but because of that potential and heightened potential of a burst of wind energy, we ended up having some noteworthy, pretty significant damage with a significant weather advisory, a step below a severe thunderstorm warning down toward Gainesville with a gust of 66 miles an hour, at least a half a dozen trees down, wires down there, mainly in the northeast side of town. So very significant stuff there. I mean, I would argue more significant toward Tampa. They have been hammered. Not our area, but it's a statewide story, a national story. 58-mile-an-hour gust there, another 58-mile-an-hour gust confirmed. They're just getting absolutely hammered there around Tampa. Dunedin there, Palm Harbor, Holiday, Newport Richey. If you're, in that area for a day off, for that weekend, maybe you travel down there from our area, you are not having fun at all there. This is some terrible weather down that way, very impactful. Again, it's got to be some of the higher powers we've seen from a summer storm in a long time here in this state down there. I mean, we're at 32,000 customers in the dark now toward Tampa. That is terrible. Not our area. Our area has still been hit hard enough, and we still have multiple warnings. The reason I'm still talking to you, but, we've still been hit hard enough here. 2,000 out in Leon, 100 out in Decatur, 100 out there. As we look, get out toward Thomas County there, and then, parts of Brooks County and Lowndes County, Columbia County, Baker, Gilchrist, Alachua, Bradford, Clay, Marion. There's so many outages here, and they're adding on up. Again, this is very impactful. I mean, they have a lot of outages further up, too, in the country. They've been hard around Charlotte as well. All that flooding in, areas of Missouri. Little area in southeast Missouri in terms of the geography, but they got a foot of rain like overnight, and it was terrible. As we go ahead and look back here at some of the Doppler scans, all our yellow boxes still on the screen. Warning to 8:30, Cairo, you guys could get some damage and wind here next little bit. Around Wiggum, you're getting into that right now. You can see there, State Park Road, Cedar Springs Road. There's some impactful stuff there. Knocking out some power. I know if you're in these warnings, you haven't gotten into the storm accident yet, it's probably not the worst idea to charge your devices up if you can before the worst comes in. I mean, you don't really want to keep stuff plugged in, when you're hearing those rumble of thunder, so you might not have much time. But if you have a low battery or something, it might be better to at least get it up there a little bit. It's a long work week maybe, and you're trying to relax, and instead you have some hazardous weather coming on through around the Tillman community up toward a higher there, into parts of our area, 49-mile-an-hour winds around maybe just south or near Bethany Drive. We still get updates on these warnings. They still have this. Let me see what they said on this for Lowndes. The one that includes Valdosta more so. Let's see the update on that. Okay, so at 7:33, a severe thunderstorm was located over Lake Park. So it's this area right here. They're saying this could be severe in nature. It's moving east at 25 miles an hour. I mean, in this environment, it could be. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot. Normally, you would never think that was severe, but with everything that's already happened today, we have that dust involved in the profile, atmospheric profile. It's causing things to push that wind down a little bit differently, causing some big problems here. Causing some big problems. As we get toward Cairo there, maybe some damaging potential around Richter Road and Davis Lane and Woodland Road there. And some very impactful weather for sure. Remember, whenever thunder roars, you want to go indoors. Lightning can strike miles away from a parent storm. And, another thing I need to check, I may try to get back on camera soon. I need to check my battery, though, on my mic, because I have been talking a really long time. I got to wonder if my mic's going to go dead here pretty soon, because we have been talking a really long time on these. It's getting pretty low. So you know what I'm going to do? we're going to take we're going to go back and look, the anniversary of Elsa was 5 years ago this week here. All that coverage we had of Elsa 5 years ago. So let's look back at some of that. We didn't have Barron back then. We just got Barron here last month. All this high-tech, technology, but still pretty good coverage, I think, of, Elsa there, giving you the latest minute by minute. We'll look back at that all. Change out my mic, and we'll be back here in just a couple minutes on Cloud Weather special coverage of severe storms causing a lot of issues, certain areas, but some areas we're not getting anything at all. A very busy Friday evening here. You just want to relax, and instead we have these storms impacting your evening. We'll have more on these in about 2 minutes. We do kind of want to watch this because some models have it getting closer toward the southeast, and check in for the update over the holiday weekend. Newly named Tropical Storm Elsa, monitoring it pretty carefully, getting us that together, and something to watch here toward the Sunshine State as we're looking ahead in toward the timeline. Able to keep that structure some. It might be able to strengthen there toward areas off of southwest Florida. We have 4 counties at the moment included. Hurricane warning here in effect as we're looking all the way up to the Steinhatchee River. I know we're watching the Santa Fe River pretty carefully, tracking a possible tornado just northwest of Gainesville Airport or near Gainesville, moving off toward the northwest at about 35 miles an hour. The worst of the weather right now in Dixie County, a little bit of Taylor County there, parts of Madison County later on as well. Going to be watching this gust to 71 miles an hour at Horseshoe Beach. We were showing this to you in the model last night, how the winds would change direction here and kind of funnel that water in when the storm made landfall. And that's pretty much what we're seeing. The latest Elsa information just coming in. We now have a landfall in Taylor County. This storm is far from over here, folks. Don't lay your guard down. Still that threat ongoing towards dark. Again, that rain coming on down. As you can see here, copious amounts. We're watching some areas of rotation moving toward Jacksonville, right along the St. Johns River. You can just see where some of this rain is really piling up. Tornado warning continues. Tight circulation there, 295 in Jacksonville. This is the tightest rotation we've seen all day here on any of these storms, and we have this in a very highly populated area. Maybe having the beginnings of a debris signature. Not 100% sure yet. We got a debris signature. This is a tornado on the ground in Duval County. Definitely a debris signature. We just got an update. There's no doubt about that one. That's a radar-confirmed tornado in southeastern Georgia. We were seeing the beginnings of it a moment ago. Back here now with special coverage of our severe weather on this Friday. I know we were looking back at Elsa 5 years ago this week, but we have seen just a slew of warnings today. Nothing like that in terms of like tornadic activity, but just seeing so many different impacts here with our storm action. So let's go ahead and get back on in here. We're going to look at all of our different yellow boxes. We have officially 3 of them here in our coverage area right now. See around Cairo there. As we look there in toward parts of Grady County, we do have that wind potential, in toward areas on the north side of town around Long Branch, around Woodland there. So, again, just need to be very cognizant of what's going on in toward that zone. And then as we get further on off toward the east here, you can see around Hahira, this looks pretty impressive there, just east of 75. I-75, it looks like, around Tillman there and around McMillan Road. And Hughes Lane, you have some pretty strong winds in toward these spots. Again, these could really be 60 because things have been underdone. We have this burst of wind energy, that Saharan dust, playing a role here, getting these downburst winds to come to the surface here. That's why we had just so many problems here today. Just, a slew of problems here. Just warnings and, damage reports all over the place here. I mean, just a whole bunch out toward Tallahassee of trees being downed. You had issues around Gainesville there. Quite a few in northeast Gainesville being down. You had problems to the St. Johns River in northern Clay County, around Interlock, and more problems here. We had a problem in Thomas County. So again, hit and miss because a lot of us not even getting rain, but some of us getting these trees to be knocked on down. I mean, it's even worse toward Tampa, believe it or not. South of our area, way worse with this power outages down there, but we've still been bad enough with so many warnings. I mean, I've lost count on how many warnings we've had here over the last few hours locally for our 38 counties, but it's all about just trying to give you guys the very latest here, the very latest on the situation, trying to keep everybody safe and informed on things. Again, there was no formal risk of severe weather. At one point it was for a little area that got trimmed back, but instead we've just had a slew of warnings. That's just how it goes sometimes around here. You just have to, really, you have to kind of adjust on the fly here as things, can really shift around here meteorologically in terms of, maybe we get strong storms. Instead, it turns into severe storms all over the place, in terms of, when I say all over the place, it's like whack-a-mole. I mean, that's a good way to describe it, I think. I know it sounds terrible in a way because we do have all this damage potential, but, I remember James Spann, he talked about that years ago with, like, in a tropical system with tornadic activity. With those spins that'll happen. It's kind of like that today with these wind damage producers. I mean, certain spots you'll have it, a lot of spots you won't have it, but we still have, we had a lot of these spots on the board here today, a lot of these different impacts. So back on camera, I see other source, and now on this source too, there's a new warning as this edges up the coast. Some of this activity from Tampa, so, I think this will go more out toward the Gulf, but if this tries to edge a little bit further north here, the models have picked up on this better than anything. I mean, they picked up some inland stuff here this afternoon too, but this here, this down toward Tampa was in the models. This here's, we're watching, but this is going up the coast here. That's Citrus there. It's not quite in Citrus. It's in Hernando, but we cover Levy. Our covered area starts down here, so we'll have to see if does it kind of just do like this? And we'll have to see if it clips those areas. This has been very, very impactful. This is a very unusual movement, too, for these storms. Very unusual to have them along the coast and moving more northerly than just due west or something. But, the west coast. But, I mean, we just have wind. I mean, these are just unbelievable numbers all over the place. I mean, as bad as things have been up here, they've been a lot worse down toward Tampa. Just, power outage numbers back that up. I mean, let's see what they're up to now. I mean, I don't pay attention to Tampa's weather like I do our weather, but, nothing like the hurricanes, but this may be one of the worst weather events they've had around Tampa since, Hurricane Milton. Not near that bad, and not like that, don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing them, I'm just saying since that event. This has got to be one of the more impactful weather events they've had since that, fateful day there back in October of 20 and fateful night back in October of 2024 there. 36,000 customers in the dark there without electricity in Hillsborough County. It's so impactful, but our area has still been getting, a lot of this accident here too. Alachua, 2,400 in Marion, 600 in Clay there, 100 here in Bradford, 300 in Baker. I mean, some of these numbers at points, higher at points here, but then we'll get out toward the west here. And you'll see Leon at 2,000, Decatur at 100. You see 200 there. We have, how many is that? 100 in Thomas, 100. Another 100 in the dark. So again, be careful too. It's getting, dark outside with the overall, sunset happening soon. Don't be using candles. Use flashlights. Candles sometimes can start house fires. We're talking about this after a hurricane. Probably more relevant for folks like around Tampa where it might take longer for the power to get on, because there's just so many in the dark. But even around here, some spots, depending on the level of damage, it could take a little bit for power restoration. Remember to treat those intersections as four-way stops. As we're looking here, if the power, is out and the traffic light is not working. So as we look toward Cairo there, you can see into toward Grady County here around Woodland, around Acreage, around Pleasant Grove, Reagan Road. You see there on Hahira. See around Franklinville. All this impact here as we look at the Doppler scans. This here getting into Eccles County. Jacksonville opted not to go with a warning on this right now, but we'll just have to look. Let's get to the other radar for this. You can still see a little bit of wind. This is west of Statenville. Radar Road there, Radar Road. I know we had Lois Lane not too far away from this the other day. What a weird, characterization geography was as we were looking at things here in the overall picture. As we were tracking things here to, have that. But, different references for sure sometimes here with the weather story. So, let me remind you guys of a covered area here. Reminding you guys of what we cover. Just trying to keep everybody safe and informed here. It's so important to stay on top of things. Just trying to stay vigilant here. And stay, informed, or, trying to keep you, the viewer, informed here on these inclement conditions. Just trying to be very mindful here. Just going through all of our information sources. I'll go ahead and come back on camera for, okay, we got a new warning, it looks like. Let me check that first. Okay, toward Thomasville now. And it is over almost, actually it's over 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, but we have a warning at 8:45, so I'll come back on camera here. This is a new severe thunderstorm warning. At 7:46, severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from near Pelham to near Cairo, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. Cairo, Thomasville, Pelham, Ocklackney, Coolidge, Sales City, Thomasville Municipal Airport, Anchorage, as well as Grady County Airport, Capel, Dillon, Cotton, Merrillville, Chastain, over to Ward, Princess Still, Laney, Spence, Doddsville, Quality, and Pine Park. So, new severe thunderstorm warning, Thomas, Mitchell, Grady. We don't cover Mitchell, but we cover Grady and Thomas here, and this, includes Thomasville until 8:45. So, another severe thunderstorm warning here on the board as we're keeping you guys up to date here on the very latest weather information here. We've been with you for almost 3 hours. We'll be going an hour 4 here if this warning holds together as we continue to keep you guys updated here on the overall dangerous conditions that we are monitoring. Let me go ahead and see if we have any questions, comments here from any of the viewers at home. Just appreciate everybody tuning on in here on this Friday. Sometimes you hope for a relaxing Friday here in the Weather Center. I wish it would have been a relaxing Friday. This is the complete opposite of that here. As we've just had a, I don't want to call it an outbreak of severe weather, but, we've seen just a slew of damage reports in terms of what has happened in the hyperlocal areas. So we got to be here to cover it for you. We got to be here to cover it, for you. As we're keeping you guys up to date, we've just had, stuff all over the place here. Just all over the place here. But we're sure just trying to keep everybody up to date. We're down to 81 degrees here east of Stark now, but just continuing to track things here. Continuing to update you. We just have more warning. These are, a lot of these start to get out of our area up here, but there's just, Albany has some of that wind damage potential. That's spreading off toward the east as well. But I showed you kind of where our counties are, and we do cover up toward Thomasville and Valdosta. We have, even though it doesn't look like a lot on radar, Valdosta is officially under a warning here. Let's get over to the radar further east, so it's a little bit better. But, some of this accent up here east of Hahira, Weather Service, after all these damage reports, they're just really trying to err on the side of caution, even if stuff doesn't look like much on radar. It has been producing damage here. So that's why it's a catch-22. I say it doesn't look like a lot. On a traditional day, it's not going to be a scenario where it needs a warning. Today's different. We have that burst of wind energy potential so, much in that heightened state. So we have to be very careful here as we're looking at the overall scenario here, at the overall weather picture. So again, we just have to be really, careful here when we're dealing with this type of weather danger. So as we get back on over here toward Grady County, you see Cairo to Ocklackney here. We're just continuing to see what, we're dealing with toward that zone. And let's go to our power outage map this way. We'll go over here. You see over 2% in the dark in Leon, 2% in Grady, over 1% there in Thomas. Just quite a few in the dark here. And it's just, I could go on and on with that. But temperature-wise, you see here some spots have had their rain and storms are close enough to it. Like where we're at, we haven't really had it here on Stark. We cooled down some because of the influence. But Brunswick here, 94. They're at 90 there toward areas there around Bainbridge. 92 in Cross City. But Tallahassee, 76, 77 in Gainesville. So, yeah, that influence here of the storm activity definitely playing a role here as we're monitoring things for you. North of Cairo, some of this wind potential. Again, continuing to watch, continuing to keep you guys updated. A lot of these don't look that impressive, but you just never know. That's moving toward Lanier County. Some of this here. So look ahead. We'll go back to the 7-day again. Again, tomorrow actually I have a much higher coverage of storms. It's just we'll have to see how it sets on up here. I mean, 40, I was going on the high side, honestly. You know, I had a whole big coverage, but a lot of populated areas have been getting hit here with damaging weather geographically. So just a crazy storyline with this. But as we look here, a boundary coming in from the north is going to increase the coverage. Hopefully it'll decrease the number of warnings we have, but we'll see. Have to stay vigilant here in the Weather Center. And then as we look toward, later on in the timeline there, you can see those rain chances here dipping on down a little bit as we finally, see a little bit better situation in terms of that. But I'll step on over. You can see down to about 40% there as we get toward that Thursday. So that's still going to be up there. Some of it today was 40%, and I've been live with coverage for almost 3 hours straight. So you just never know how things will play out here across the coverage area. So again, just trying to keep you guys up to date here. Let me go ahead and look at all these warnings further north again. We have Thomas in our area, but then there's just a slew of warnings further north. And remember, we can't forget about, once this all fades away, we can't forget about what's to the south. Look at that. We now have a warning down there, just south of our area. You very well may end up getting a warning toward Dunn Allen or Cedar Key later. So, yeah, this is not ideal. We may still be with you here for a ways longer because the models were really picking up on some of this, earlier on I was looking at them. I'll have to see if it's go more west, that'd be great. Keep it south of our area. Citrus is under this, but that's not our area. But, this stuff down here has just been, I don't think it's, an overstatement to say wreaking havoc. That's what's been happening down there toward Tampa as we look at the power numbers again. Not like Milton, sir, not like Hurricane Milton. I'm not trying to compare them, but I'm saying it may be about the worst event they've had weather-wise since then. Down that way, as I put our county, county power outage percentage, but let's put county power outage total on. 36,000 customers, electric customers, and you say a household of 2 or 3. That's, we're talking about 80,000 plus people in the dark right now, no electricity in a major metro area in Florida because of all this storm activity. Nothing like Milton, Hurricane Milton, sure, but still, it's just the idea here to even, we haven't had, that many big weather events since then. It's maybe one of the worst since then down that way. Nothing like it, but still one of the worst weather events they've had since then down that way. So. This stuff, I want to say it looks like it's fading, but it could still put that burst of wind energy down toward the surface here. Even in Eccles, we don't have a warning there, but there could be a burst of wind energy over here, north of Statenville. Again, just trying to keep everybody safe, up to date, informed here. I'm going to go ahead and see if there's any more questions or comments. I see, looks like we have, nothing new here last little bit, but just appreciate everybody tuning in. Trust in me. I'm going to remind you guys of our coverage area here. We're just trying to keep you informed on things. Just trying to keep you informed. I'm going to look at some data points behind the scenes. In fact, let me go ahead. What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it back to the radar here in a second. I'll be off camera again. It might be for the duration or just a little bit. We'll see how it goes. But, just trying to give you guys the very latest on things here in the Weather Center with a slew of warnings. Again, I know downstate around Tampa, 72-mile-an-hour wind gust reported there on Tampa Executive. Some of that stuff, we'll have to see if it skirts some of those areas around Levy County, around Cedar Key. Been on so long, I'm trying to mix the words together, combine words, but you kind of get the idea. It's all about keeping you guys up to date here, about keeping you guys informed. Just trying to stay with you here. Just trying to stay with you. Looking on Facebook, seeing we've had people like William and Sylvia watching here this evening. Appreciate you tuning on in. That's on my one page there. We're looking at the overall situation. That's meteorologist Casey Cloud, and then on the cloud weather page, folks like Noah there watching. Talked about Selby watching there, Dolly watching. So appreciate everybody tuning on in. Trust in me. Again, been with you for a while here, giving you the latest. Just trying to be here for you. There's so much to go over here meteorologically. Just really trying to update you guys on things the best we can. You just never know with these storms here. Sometimes you think it's going to be a 30-minute show or a quick update, and we're now with you for almost 3 hours. Just trying to be on top of things here. Again, just trying to keep everybody up to date. Looking through all the different sources here. We're at the top of the hour, 8 o'clock. Again, we've just been seeing damage all over the place here. I say that, and I keep feeling like I'm contradicting myself a little. What I mean by that is it has been all over the place, but it's been spots. I mean, we're seeing sun here east of Stark, so we have had a lot of storms that have produced damage, but a lot of other spots have stayed dry completely. So a lot of you get a storm, you get damage. A lot of you not getting anything, not getting any measured rain or very little, and it still adds to our drought situation. Again, just trying to keep you up to date here. Keep you informed. Let's get back on over here towards some of the other Doppler views, because we have to watch this stuff down here. This is more ferocious, and it's a threat there. It was south of our area, but it does include like areas like Inverness there. This stuff's coming from the southwest or southeast to the northwest there. As we keep you informed, let me do a storm track on some of that. In fact, let me get an idea of some of the speeds here. Just bear with me. And we're still gonna have to watch the heat index get up there tomorrow before the storms come in. So then we didn't really have time for the full show. I mean, we could have just went through some more stuff. I have gone through quite a bit of it, but heat index is in the triple digits again tomorrow. Be careful out there. Drink plenty of water. When you're outdoors there, for an extended period, if it's not stormy and it's just hot out there, you got to be extra careful in this heat. Okay, they're tracking this west at 10, but let me, by the way, further up in Georgia, some damage history being noted in some of the weather statements from the Tallahassee office. But this stuff here, I think it's headed a little bit more west-northwest, maybe. So we're going to say it's hard to kind of track some of this stuff. We don't generally have stuff come from this way. We'll do it like this, and that's not our area. But the point is, some of this might, especially this up here, might clip like areas there right in our southern fringes. But it's possible this stuff ended up going, some of these skits have it going a lot more like this here. If I can click on some of them, our overall scenario a lot more like that. And that really gets to the northwestern counties. So, and temperature-wise over there, you have 87 towards Cedar Key. So again, could still have some of that instability and play. Again, trying to give everybody the latest. Looks like we had some updates to warnings further east, so I'll look at those here in a second. But you see our warning accent continuing around Thomasville. I know, but further east, we don't have that anymore, which is a positive. You know, as we're losing some of that daytime heating, but still maybe a burst of wind energy possible, but it's not as aggressive there. As we get further back, though, around Ocklawaha, there's not a lot of lightning with this, but still could have that burst of wind energy. The warning goes to 8:45 for, Grady and Thomas there. As we keep you up to date. I'm just seeing all these different damage reports. This is a newer one here, tree down along Moultrie Highway in Brooks County. Down toward Tampa, seeing all this wind energy. 57. A lot of that's getting further northwest, which is a good sign, but, because we want it more west-northwest. Because if it does something more like this, then we have to kind of watch out towards Cedar Key. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's probably a big lightning show in the Gulf, though, regardless. Like if you're looking from what color to the south, hopefully it doesn't make it all the way there, but you see around Bushnell, or Bushnell, some people call it something different. Different way to pronounce that. We're watching that stuff down there. We'll have to monitor it. Just leftover stuff to the east right now, but we had all these damage reports like Plymouth Island. Several trees were downed over there a few hours ago as we were tracking things. Gainesville, half a dozen, trees and wires down there, mainly northeast side of town with a gust as high as 66 miles an hour at Gainesville Airport. A large tree limb blocking part of County Road 315 north of Interlochen. As we get further back toward the west here. Again, all these damage reports around Tallahassee. Block some cutoff there, a tree downed. And some gusty winds, but not severe at the airport maybe, but tree down partially blocking Orange Avenue west and Walnut Street. A tree on a car at the corner of Barclay Lane and Godfrey Place. Power lines also in the car. A tree down there at Miccosukee Road. Tree fell and damaged a resident's fence there. Tree blocking Centerville Road near Bradfordville Road. Thomas County, tree and power line down near Scott Road in Richterville. Okay, we talked about one in Brooks County recently. These look weaker, just after everything that's happened today. It looks way weaker. It's just after everything that's happened today, not sure we want to take any chances here with this like we normally might. And we still got this stuff coming in from the south. Potentially. I know down there did have the formal rest, but up here it's just been general thunderstorms, but we've had damage, unfortunately, with this way things set up. This is how it can be sometimes around here. Looking at all the power outage information, Alachua, 2,000, Leon, 2,500, but we're thankful you're not down to the south, out of our area. 36,000 in Hillsboro and to the north, even 5 more thousand in the dark with those storms really packing a bulky wind damage punch. So, okay, where else are we going to go with this? We're going to go ahead and, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and put SPC up, and I want to see tomorrow's risk because we actually have a formal risk tomorrow for our area. It's even more pronounced further north in the country, but, we just had a lot today with, just general thunderstorm or marginal in some of the areas further north and the south, and then This is your Sunday outlook here. A couple ways to look at that. Gonna be watching that potential. Gonna be watching that potential for sure. I know we had those warm temperatures today. High temps today since midnight. Get an idea here how hot it got before we had, some areas didn't have the storm. They still stayed warm, but, so hot here towards some of our different zones, the general idea. And then there's road temperatures where you haven't had the storms that are especially pronounced here. Talk about when you walk your dog, if you hadn't had a storm like, a lot of us, even though a lot of us, again, have, but if you haven't had the storm acts, then, it could burn their feet up here, in those areas if you didn't get any rain, even just a little rain, it could still be pretty warm depending on how it is on the hyperlocal level. Some areas still wet here, but it's still toasty out there right now in spots, but some spots you can kind of tell where we've had some of that precip around. Just kind of looking here at the broad brush. It's muggy out there, though. I mean, some spots it does vary a little, but and it feels hot out there. We've had some gusty winds at times. I mean, Albany's really so gusty right now, and they're so gusty to the south more so than in our area. But on hyperlocal level, a few spots could have some of these stronger winds here for sure, as we're looking at things meteorologically. I know we're near sunset now, so I don't think I was hoping our visible. Let me go to our IR. We'll go to the IR satellite. We have some cloud cover around, but not everybody's having cloud. We're getting some sun through right now here. And we're looking at some different things. I'm looking through my window, but let me go ahead and see what else we want to sow. Again, all these warnings here on play. 27, 21. Not sowing a whole bunch right now, but could be right on the fringe of our area, some damage potential. And again, this stuff coming in from the south here. We'll have to see how it holds together. Going to the sunset soon, but we'll have to just watch the trends. Some of that looks like off the Tampa radar. It is weakening some. Let's look at the lightning counter. That other accent's picking up some, maybe. It's hard to tell, but overall it has decreased in intensity some, so that's good. The overall view. Again, the reason we're staying on just hour after hour, like it's a marathon pretty much at this point, like it's a tropical system almost coming through, is because we still have the yellow boxes on the screen. You see around Ocklawahamna, not a lot there, but we've had the history of damage with very minimal on radar. I'm really doubting that we're going to have damage with that now, but they're on the side of caution. I can't exactly blame them after everything that's happened. In Eccles County there, we have some little bit of gusty winds there, west of Statenville maybe, or well, let's zoom in here. And north of Statenville more so now. I know when we're not on there, you have the interactive radar available, cloudy.com/radar. Let's see what I want to see, guys. I'm going to put together a loop here. Let's do 4 hours. Kind of loop this around here. See all the yellow boxes on and off. Just all over the place. Our severe thunderstorm warnings. I mean, really some of the most impressive problems, not in a good way, but just in terms of meteorological facts. We're down toward Gainesville, where we didn't have a severe thunderstorm warning. It was a significant weather advisory, but it's so far away on the radar. Sometimes, these are tough situations to warn for. You just can't see things good. I mean, wish we had a radar down toward Gainesville because you're having to look pretty high up and didn't realize maybe, the meteorological aspects here were just so favorable to get these bursts of wind until we started having the reports down toward Gainesville there. So Very, very favorable for some problems here today. As we're looking, let me put our storm report loop on here too. As we look at the overall situation, just keep watching things, and let me put our sweep off here because that didn't really help too much. So just look here at the overall scenario. Let me zoom out just a little. I know it's going to take the counties away, but I want to see the stuff from the south coming up. See how that could evolve for like Cedar Key, Levy County, Yankeetown there, some of those areas down in the southern Levy County. Let me pause this. We'll put Tampa reader on. We're on Inglis there, Yankeetown. We'll have to see how this kind of progresses on in. Some of this action from the south. That warning goes to only, okay, it's about to go away. So we'll see what they do. What they decide to do here. Be interesting to see if they go to the significant advisory, if they issue a warning all the way up, because Tampa does cover Levy. That has to be a Jacksonville warning from Marion, though. Not sure Jacksonville would do it, but I can see Tampa, if they're extending this, they might clip Levy with it. It's possible. And how are these winds looking? I mean, they look a lot stronger near Newport Richey area there. And Jasmine Estates, you see 48, 57 down there versus up here. Granted, we're further from the radar. They don't look as strong, but again, you just never know in this pattern. This technology is really good, but these summertime storms, there's really no technology that can look at them perfectly and just get 100% look at how things are going in terms of the overall damage potential. It sure doesn't look like much, but some of that up in the Colquitt's a little more, but that's out of our area. But we still have Thomas and Grady officially 15 to 30 more minutes severe warning, but I don't think it's going to last that long. Just to see what this stuff to the south does, though. A lot of lightning around Spring Hill, downstate there. Look at all these outages, 38,000, 5,500, 8,500. So you add all that together, and I've been on for a while, so my math might not be perfect, but it's about 50,000 in the dark just between those three counties there. Pasco, Hernando, and Hillsboro. I mean, you got Pinellas out here. It's another 4,500. So. And then Polk, 600. Down in the south, 500. And then our area, of course. Marion, 500. Alachua, 2,000. Clay, 100. Baker, 200. 2,500 in Lowndes. As we get over here, let's look 500 in Brooks. 100 in Thomas. 300 in parts of Grady. 2,500 in Leon. Had a couple new updates, by the way, from Weather Services now. So, first off, they trimmed some of our alert area back. We still got a little of Thomas, though. But Grady's out of this now, so just a little bit of Thomas still into this warning for this tail end wind energy here. And in the south, they decided to go with an advisory to the Tampa office. Not a warning, and it does not quite clip our area. So, that's a good sign down there. What we'll probably do, especially with that not being a warning down there, as soon as this warning goes away to the north, we'll wrap the stream up, and we'll come back if we need to, but, we've been on for a really long time with this, just reset, and if we need to pop back in for more warnings, we will, but otherwise I'll be on for tomorrow, our event tomorrow, obviously, with the storm threat and marginal risk in play, but, again, I've been with you for 3 hours today, and it's the way things go. We didn't actually have a formal risk, and things just happen like this around here. It's just, nobody can do anything about it. No meteorologist is, can really forecast this just, enough to really be able to give you the very latest here on stuff. It just kind of happens here, and it's, it's hit and miss. This is how things go here in the Sunshine State this time of year and in the South Georgia. But wind gusts to 40 to 50 miles an hour. I know moving northwest at 35 miles an hour down here, so. So eventually that could get into Inglis, Yankeetown, and Dunellen about the 9 o'clock hour. If it does go more northerly like that, I mean, as they're saying northwest, I mean, it could go. And let me just, again, we're watching, we're tracking, we're paying attention. Again, northwest at 35 miles an hour. We'll go a little more westerly with this. Maybe a little later in that timeline as I look there. Inglis, Yankeetown, Dunallen, and our southern friends right here where I'm looking at things. We'll just have to wait and watch. If it doesn't go warm, we'll have the interactive radar still, like we always do, cloudweather.com/radar. You have to have the app, give you the latest alerts there, the Cloud Weather mobile app there. So make sure you download that in the Google Play Store. It's Clouds Weather, Cloud_S Weather, and then in the Apple App Store, KC Cloud Weather. Okay, so we're seeing some more damage reports. Lowndes County trees and power lines down in the northwestern part of the county there. Again, seeing that impact over there. And a lot of this is more out of our area with this axon. Sylvester areas there. Tipton next little bit. Moultrie. And that looks pretty impressive, but that's north of the area. But we still have this little sliver of our area holding on to a warning. Normally, I just wrap it up. But with everything that's happened today, I don't want to take any chances. I mean, you never know. This little wind here could have enough wind with it to knock a tree down or something. I doubt it, but after everything that's happened here these last few hours with this so subtle signatures causing such damage here, I mean, just damage all over the place. You see all our tree indicators on the map. Just can't take any chances. These reports over here. You have a report here and here. And the big one I just put out, information out about there. And then you have here and here. And then you have over toward Gainesville area. Just all sorts of damage reports. Not fun. It's just how it is. I mean, unfortunately, it is impactful. It is problematic. It is dangerous, but it's just, just all over the place here. Definitely, you got to be very mindful here. You got to be vigilant. You got to be cautious. A lot of us have stayed dry today, though. It's weird. But then, a lot of us have had damage. A lot of these have hit in pretty populated areas. If these are heading in more rural areas, it's going to be maybe a different story here in some ways. So, again, just trying to keep you up to date. I know we still need rain, even after all this. We still need rain. But let me see if there's any more questions, comments from any of the viewers at home. Let's see if we have any more questions or comments from anybody. Don't see anything right now, but just appreciate everybody tuning in, trusting me. Been with you for a while here, trying to keep you up to date. Really trying to stay on top of things here, meteorologically. Trying to stay weather aware. Again, trying to update you. Looking through all my different computer sources. Excuse me, I apologize here. Just been on for a while. Again, just trying to give you guys the very latest here. Again, trying to keep everybody up to date. Some wind damage reports. Look at that, just north of our area around Pelham. 6 trees down there from these winds. Again, just being very mindful of things here. See this stuff to the south we'll keep our eyes on for Levy and maybe Dunellen and Marion County. Just causing all that wind is causing all sorts of problems downstate. As busy as we've been up here, they've just had, I mean, I talk about it being in a lot of spots, but a lot of spots staying dry. Well, down there, it's been something a lot different, just widespread wind damage there around Tampa. Widespread wind damage. And we'll see the power outage numbers. We hardly ever have to watch stuff coming from that direction to even approach our area, but look at all these outages. I mean, further north, not as much, Citrus, but you saw Hillsborough, and then even, I mean, I don't want to forget about Pinellas. And these are just unbelievable numbers here, of Hillsborough mainly, but in our area, we've had our share of problems too. 2,500 plus 100 plus 100, another 2,500, 200, 100, 400 there, 1,500. So that's very impactful. See the 7-day again because we actually have more coverage of moisture tomorrow and Sunday and Monday, but maybe we won't have as many of these bursts. I hope not. Even though we have the formal risk, you never know how it'll play out day to day. Just never know. I know some spots feel a lot cooler than others. Some still feel like over 100 or at 100 at this late hour. Again, just continuing to give you the very latest here. Let me see if there's any more questions, comments. Just really appreciate your viewership here. Appreciate you guys and your support on this Friday here. That's July 10th here, 2026. Okay, they trimmed Thomas out. I think we can wrap it here. So we'll wrap it in just a second. Let me see what they said in the statement from the Weather Service in Tallahassee. I'll go ahead and read that on off. So they just sent that out 1 minute ago. The warning from Mitchell, which is out of our area, but Thomas, northwestern Thomas, canceled. The storms which prompted the warning. I moved out of the area, and that has been canceled. So that's great news there to see on the mapping. We have some lighting here and there, but nothing too crazy at the moment. Again, we're going to watch from the south, moving up toward the north and west. So if this prompts a warning, we'll be back with you. They don't get warnings too much in Levy and that area there. But this has had a history of damage. We'll have to see what it does in Citrus to see if it's still maintaining, because it looks like it's weakened a good bit. But there's still a lot of lighting that's going to be heading up toward maybe Inglis and Cedar Key and Dunellen. Just be vigilant there. And if we need to cut back in, we will. You have the app, of course, available. And if we need to cut back in, you'll be able to see the coverage on the app. But you have to be interactive radar there in the Cloud Weather app. And, it sends out alerts. You can enable certain alerts to come across. As I go back over to the Valdosta radar right now, I have stuff to the north. These are out of our area. Colquitt and some of these areas tipped. Used to be in our area, but not anymore. We've changed that up May 1st. Now, what I will say is there's a chance, because we cover, the way this goes is we cover like this, because Lanier and Lowndes kind of go together here, and we cover into Clint. So our covered area is kind of like this. There's a chance we could get some of this to clip. Granted, some of these, we have, Lanier's Tallahassee, but Clint is Jacksonville office. We could get some of this to clip back into our area later on with warnings. I don't know if that'll happen with the daytime heating being lost. I would kind of lean against that scenario, but something else to look out for, because things have definitely been a little bit tricky here as we look at the overall pattern here on this Friday. It's supposed to be a fun day, but instead it's been very impactful for a lot of us here across our area. So that's going to conclude coverage for now. If we need to pop back in, we will. We'll be here tomorrow as necessary. But thanks for tuning in and trusting me over the last 3.5 hours or so. We've been just a little less than that. I know we even posted at 4 o'clock hour about that storm around Gainesville over on Facebook, Casey Cloud WX, Facebook, that platform, and then Twitter/X at Cloud Casey. Just talking about it. It looked a little bit, in terms of the, intensity, looking a little bit on the strong side, but it actually ended up producing severe damage. Severe weather damage in toward parts of Gainesville. Severe damage, I got to be careful when I say that, because you can take that two different ways. But still impactful damage, with at least a half a dozen severe weather damage, half a dozen reports of trees and wires downed in Gainesville on the northeast side, and at 66-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So something noteworthy there as we're looking at the information. Again, just being very mindful of that, being very mindful of all these reports. Madison County, a couple trees down in northern Madison County there. So just seeing all these different reports here as we look toward our different counties, just being very much, in terms of the overall story, taking note of them, being noteworthy of them. The overall local weather impact here as we watch things across our area. But for now, that's going to conclude coverage. I'll be back here if warranted here in the Weather Center. I really do appreciate your trust in me, on all the different platforms, including the app, including on Facebook, just posting stuff on Twitter/X. And I'll be back if warranted, but otherwise, enjoy your night, stay safe, and if a thunderboard's go indoors, it will be hot tomorrow. It's going to get toasty again. Those high temperatures well into the 90s before the storms come on in, it looks like. So you got to be vigilant about that. You got to be taking note about that there. And we have that warning in the northern area in Colquitt, but that's not our area, but definitely I know the Albany area being, very mindful of what's going on up that way. But for now, have a great night. Stay safe. Thanks for tuning in and trusting me. Try to enjoy things the best you can. If you have a power outage right now, just be careful, Obviously, you don't, it's getting dark. Don't want to be going out there, especially if there's any down power lines. Got to be aware of that here. Just be careful. Don't be using candles either in the wake of a power outage because, those can tip over. That can start a house fire. Just got to be really careful here with this storm, damage aftermath, and just we'll continue to watch things. Northern areas, southern areas. If we get anything else severe, I'll be back on here with the latest if we get any more of those warnings popping up. But for now, have a great night.